Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Jeff Gerstmann Show. I am here hosting this week's installment of the show. My name is Jeff Gerstmann. I'm happy to be here. Hi. How's everyone doing? It's video game time. It's time to strap in for video games. We got all the latest reviews, the latest previews of the upcoming video games, and also we'll head down to the code lab and see the latest cheat codes. Here's how to play as Sagat. Not from Street Fighter, the one from Funk Dat. The hit song Funk Dat. Tips, tricks, and strats for all the latest vids. And now here's your host, the guy from Funhouse. What's that guy's name? AJ? Is AJ something? I don't know. JD Roth. I was thinking AJ. Oh, come on, JD. Like, yeah, all right, okay, yeah. This is the guy in Funhouse was always, yeah, right. Welcome to the program. Where you are where video games are king. Double in the bubble here this week. Yeah, gosh, it's been an interesting week, you know. My wife left with the new baby for a while because the kids got sick, and I won't recap the whole thing. The baby has a condition where for the instructions from the doctor are, hey, for the next 4 weeks, don't let this baby catch a cold. It would be bad, and she might have to go in the hospital for, you know, breathing related problems. So we had to scramble and get everybody separated and everything, and I've been here with the kids and everything. My wife came home yesterday with the baby. The kids are still kind of, you know, they couldn't possibly still be sick and massively contagious. You know, they haven't had a fever in days. But the thing I've realized about children, and this might be a little gross, kids don't know how to spit. They don't know how to hawk up a lunger, hack up a loogie. They don't know how to get the phlegm out of their body. In the grossest way possible. Honestly, I'm not real big on spitting, unless it's spitting bars. But they have to get the gunk out of them, and so they're still gunky as a result. And so that's, you know, that's a little worrisome, but hey, they've been better for days now. So, you know, my daughter's back in school, all that sort of stuff. They're you know, they're better for all intents and purposes, but still just a little, just a slight gunk, slightly gunked up. They're get gunked up. They're gunked up. Is what I'm saying. Committee 2000. I need an echo button for my voice for that sort of stuff. If we're going to do hip hop ad libs, then Committee 2000. No, that's the wrong, but that's not the right button. That's not okay. Anyway, moving on. Video games. The Call of Duty. This year's Call of Duty campaign is available to people who bought. I think you have to buy the expensive version of the game for early access to the campaign. I'm not positive about that. That seems like something they would do. But anyway, some segment of people are playing the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 campaign. I have played some of it. It's remember how so they spent a good long time talking about, like, we've got these open combat missions that's going to redefine the franchise, or, you know, whatever their talking points were for it. But they were talking up this idea of these kind of open missions. You know, Call of Duty has traditionally been, you know, one of the things people have dinged it for over the years is that it's always been a little too linear. I get it from a gameplay perspective. It's certainly, you know, it is at times it has been a game with a man in front of you with the word follow written on his head, and you just follow him and shoot people along the way. Like, yeah, it's yes, it has at times perhaps been overly linear. On this side of things, these open missions are a lot like last year's DMZ mode, or perhaps like they took an existing multiplayer space, like perhaps the one they were going to use for Warzone or open world zombies or whatever they're doing. And they crammed some single player missions onto it. And it feels bad. It feels incredibly thrown together. It feels very aimless. It feels very like they have tried to. Okay, so the first one of these you get is there's a mission where you have to like kind of go collect some manifest, some shipping manifest, some object. You have to go get a thing. I think it's a shipping manifest. You have to get on a boat and get this off of the bridge. And I think they must have gotten some feedback along the way that said, like, we don't know what we're doing or why we're doing it, because it felt like every 20 seconds a guy was coming on the radio and said, you got to get over to that ship, get those manifests. Yeah, we're going to have to get those manifests and see where the other and see where the missiles are. We got to find the missiles. We're going to need those manifests. You're going to have to, you got to make your way over to those manifests. The enemy's getting entrenched here. You got to get the manifests. And it was insane. It's insane. Like the frequency with which these things bark at you. But it's like, yeah, no, I get it. I'm running to the fucking icon on the map. By the way, this is not less linear. This is just, now there's a wider corridor of getting over there. And so there was that part of it. The game kind of constantly, oh, we got to blow up these 3 helicopters. Oh, you got to, oh, the helicopters are, there's enemies around the helicopters. You got to blow up the helicopters. If you could go blow up these helicopters anytime, that'd be good. These helicopters, if you could take them out. There's the helicopter. You should take it out. Just a disturbing. I look at that and I always think of it as like a lack of faith in the player or something. But maybe that's because of testing, and they're just like players going, "Oh, geez, this is a fucking nightmare." Yeah, it's pretty bad. You can equip armor just like you can in Warzone or DMZ, which is always extra awkward because then they've got it so, okay, in the missions that we've decided are open missions, you can run any way you want and you can put armor plates in because that's what you do in these big open areas that we've created. But also, some missions in the campaign are linear, and for those, the armored icon is just not there. You don't find any armor to pick up. There's just like magically no armor on those other missions. It's really like just jarring. Like just from like if you spend. Okay, I'm a really good suspender of disbelief when it comes to garbage like that, because at the end of the day, it's very easy to just go like, oh man, who cares? But when they are trying to introduce new things that then just like clash in a bunch of different ways with the existing thing, you just look at it and go, it's like, why didn't, not that the other missions needed armor per se, but it's more of a thing of just like, this is like awkward now. Just like I found myself looking at the icon and if the armor carrier and carrying things are not in the lower left part of the screen, I look at it and go like, okay, it's not one of those missions. It's just a really weird. It's really weird. It's jarring to go back and forth from like, oh, this is like more like a regular ass Call of Duty mission, and then oh, this one is not. Like this one is very much not one of those. This is a open world, there's a mission, there's a name for them, open combat mission, open mission combat, whatever it is. And so that's no good. I think that the open missions are incredibly aimless. They feel very aimless and are not a good time. It's like they took DMZ mode and said, "Oh, let's tune these for a single player," and then turn the difficulty down quite a bit because DMZ was occasionally pretty brutal. so that people can get through it. And it's just not fun. They try to create, like, so every time you die, also the open missions have seemingly way fewer checkpoints than the linear ones. And so they create a situation where every time you die in one of the open missions, you can rebuild your loadout. And as you're running around the level, you'll find supply containers that'll be like, this is an incendiary shotgun, heavy machine gun, whatever guns are in the thing. Here's a rocket launcher, all the hits. And so if you open those up, then when you die, if you die, you can go back and decide, okay, well, now I want to take the rocket launcher and the heavy machine gun and snapshot grenade, or whatever gear you want to take into your next attempt. That only lasts for that mission, though. So it's not like next time there's an open mission, you're choosing from all the things you found in the previous one. It's just like you start with the set loadout and then you build options from there by finding these crates, which is really disjointed. The whole thing, disjointed is maybe the best word for the entire production. There were all the rumors that this thing started as DLC and not a full-priced game, or not a full-fledged game, I guess. You see it all over this thing. You see every aspect of it. There's little things that people are calling out, like, all the trophies and stuff for Modern Warfare 3 are just lumped into this generic Call of Duty game on PlayStation Now alongside all of the Modern Warfare 2 achievements and stuff. And those are like little signs of sure, but you could also say like, oh, they're trying to, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to cram all the games together into one launcher, which I think actually really sucks for a reason I'll get into in a little bit. But it's the thing, like right now, to play the game, you launch what is just listed on Steam or other places as just Call of Duty. And then from there, you can either play Modern Warfare 2 or Modern Warfare 3. Anyway, that stuff. But the storytelling, the quality of the cutscenes, the quality of the mission design, just the gameplay across this campaign is really, really underwhelming. Astoundingly so. In a way that you go like, oh, did you have to blow up DLC into something full-fledged and this is where you got to, by November and so you got to ship it? Or like, what the heck happened here? So this campaign, so the first guy that's barking at you, so this game is set immediately after the events of Modern Warfare 2. Which, if you don't remember those, there's an American general who is turned traitor, and he's, it's a retelling of the events of the previous Modern Warfare trilogy with some changes and so on and so forth. But you also fight this guy Graves, who is the head of Shadow Company, because Shadow Company is a bunch of mercenaries and they're turned on you, and so you're fighting them, and so your group of guys is fighting against the Shadow Company mercenaries, and they're revealed to be a bunch of war criminal scumfucks and all this other stuff. Second mission in the game is that mission where I'm talking about you go getting the shipping manifest. The guy barking at you to go get the shipping manifest is Graves, one of the main bad guys from the previous game, who apparently escaped the tank attack that happened to the tank boss battle that was in that game. I forget how that specifically went down. Maybe that's not that big a deal, but and they don't do much to explain. There's like a little line of dialogue later that's like, "Where did you get the missiles? Did you get them from Shadow Company? Did you get the missiles from Shepard? Did you get them from the evil general because he's bad? He tried to kill me and my men." And it's like, "Well, I've got secrets too, Price." And it's just fucking terrible. It is the most overwrought but underwritten thing I've seen in a long time. And I'm sure by the end of it, they will try to like, and I'm seeing other people complaining about this same thing. I saw someone say, oh, there's a line of dialogue later that attempts to explain away the Graves thing. Because they're mercenaries and hey, they're just working for the high, which is just, what the fuck? And all of it, like, you know, whatever. This has been a franchise that is dealt in military lingo and garbage and played very fast and loose with a lot of stuff and allegiances and blah, blah, blah over the years. This is just part of the whole thing, right? It's part and parcel with, like, we're making a big dumb action movie and like, oh my God, this guy's a bad guy. You know, like, whatever. It's shit happens. But this is in some ways the emptiest and most like there's something about the way that this thing sets itself up where it just feels like no one involved cared. Like this feels to me like whoever was involved in writing this thing was just like, no, like they finally woke up one day and just was like, looked in the mirror and said, no one fucking cares, man. They just want to fucking shoot guys in the head. Like, I don't, you know, whatever. Fucking whatever. And it's a shame because I think that they have, you know, they have done a good job in some previous years. I actually thought the game last year, the story was pretty decent. For what it is, like, I'm not coming at it going like, this is really thought provoking. It's like, no, like, it's an over the top fucking military crazy action movie fucking thing. It needs some story to string this bullshit together. In this game, the story that they try to use to string the bullshit together is incredibly fucking bad. Like, it's just, but whatever. Hey, you know, I have not finished the campaign yet because I can't, because it won't let me load back in. There's a bug on the PC version. I'm not the only person experiencing this, but it doesn't seem like it's like super widespread. There's a mission called Flashpoint, which is like a, it's a flashback. Apparently some people, when they die in that mission, the screen goes black and it never returns. And then when you go to load your save, when you quit the game forcefully and load it back up, the loading bar gets to, like, you know, almost the end, and then it sits there for a while, and then the game crashes to desktop. I'm like, okay. Thanks for saving me from the rest of this, I guess. I will probably finish it because it's very short. Also, you know, that's you know, 3 to 5 hours, 2 to 4. I don't know. People have times all over the place, but just very very disappointing. In terms of quality of the writing and missions. Like, so this is the game that's supposed to have, and it's weird because they're off by a number, right? Because Modern Warfare 2 did this last time around, but Modern Warfare 3 deals with the return of Makarov, who's the evil ultra-nationalist Russian. You know, he breaks out of prison very early on and then sets about fucking shit up. And so this is them attempting to kind of pull some levers and try to have something that is a modern equivalent to No Russian, which is the mission from the original Modern Warfare 2, where you walk around an airport as an undercover, you know, as you've infiltrated Makarov's squad and they're mowing down civilians in an airport. And so at the time, No Russian was a big deal. I don't know. It never really. It all just felt a little like, ooh, to me. Like, just like, look at you guys deliberately trying to ride up to this controversial line. Their attempts to try to pull similar tactics here, I think, are way less successful. And also gross. I think there's something about, and you know, this was certainly true to an extent back when they did it the first time, but you know, and this is in some ways no fault of their own or something. I don't, you know, what's the there's, you know, Russia's out there at war in the Ukraine. Russia, you know, there's a lot of like real world shit happening right now that you just look at this stuff and it's really eye rolly, you know, like, who has time for this fucking bullshit? Are you kidding me? Like, oh, ultra nationalist, super, you know, which is, wants to return Russia to its glory by doing a bunch of terrorism and blaming it on brown people in a false flag attack. And you're just like, what? Fuck you. Like, they don't. It's shitty. And also, because the story itself around it is so bad, it feels like this giant unearned thing. Where, there just wasn't enough build up. Even if you take the previous game into account and try to, hey, they were kind of building in this direction, blah, blah, blah. Like, when they get to these points in the campaign, you just look at it and go like, ugh. Fucking whatever. This shit is like embarrassing. So it kind of has that going against it as well. Just the current state of the real world. Not that it's like directly like set in the Gaza Strip or anything like that, but you've got these things happening in the world. You've got news headlines every night that are like, who blew up this? Did someone blow up this hospital in a false flag? And then you're playing this game that is full of similar stuff, but like, yeah, it's that stuff. They not necessarily their fault that they kind of released the game into a world that is going through what it's going through right now. But separated from that. It's kind of a separate conversation, I guess. But separate from that, I think that the things that they're trying to pull to try to make the game feel edgy don't hit very hard. I think it's very corny. And I don't think they did a very good job on that front. And hey, maybe my tune will change if I'm able to play the last 4 or 5 missions of the campaign or whatever it is. But I can't because it's broken. So, eventually that thing will get a patch and maybe I'll see it the rest of the way through. Like I said, it's short. You unlock some stuff for multiplayer. So, what are you going to do? Yeah, I don't know. I just was taken aback by like, the quality of the campaign is always been kind of all over the place, especially lately. This is I think qualitatively from like both a gameplay and a storytelling perspective, I think this is one of the worst ones they've done. I would still rather play this than Vanguard, if that tells you anything. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's that. Alan Wake 2 continues to just be a real gem of a video game. Still making my way through that. I think it's incredible. I think it's a beautiful looking video game. It runs really well on this PC. It was running fine on PlayStation 5, but I decided to drop it and play the early parts of the game again, and go to PC. And I am having such a good time with it. It's really great because I normally I don't want anything to do with survival horror in a general sense, right? Like, it's just not my genre. It never has been, whether it's the controls or just the way the combat is usually styled. Like, this has very similar trappings to that sort of stuff in terms of how it handles combat. It's a lot of like shine a flashlight on a guy to stun him and then shoot him a bunch and try not to waste bullets because you don't have a ton of them, at least early on. And I think just everything about what they've made, I think everything about the tone of this game, the dialogue, the writing, there's so much, they made a choice to like, and it's where you start to feel Remedy's previous work kind of all coming into its own. The game is kind of episodic in a weird way. They give you good breakpoints. They give you good breakpoints with like, we're just gonna play a song here. Like, it's got pacing. You can skip all that stuff if you don't, whatever. But like they let their moments breathe. They let their moments be moments. They don't just rush you into the next thing. They treat it like they give the whole game room, I guess, and I think that that's something that they do really well. I know some of that stuff was in the first game, but I just, the first game never clicked for me at all. And so for this game, I was looking forward to it, and I couldn't really figure out why. Even before they showed any of it, I was like, yeah, man, Alan Wake 2. Fuck yeah, they should do an Alan Wake. Yeah, let's see what Alan Wake 2 is all about. I didn't like the first game, but Control is incredible. Let's see what they do next. And as much as I want to see a sequel to Control and whatever the other multiplayer thing, if that's a Control, whatever. I think it's amazing. And I'm still like, I'm really savoring it. Like, it's funny. The reviewing job trains you to blast through video games as quickly as you possibly can because you've got a deadline and you've got 9 other games to play. I'm trying to do what I can to kind of unwind from that just a little bit, but also it's just been the reality of the last few weeks of having a new baby and everything else. Like, my time's been pulled in a lot of directions, so I have not been able to just blast through video games. And so I've been coming back to Alan Wake 2 a little bit every night here and there, or whatever it is, like every couple of days in some cases, and I could get an hour here, an hour there. And it's just, I think that game is just phenomenal. I like the way they're telling their story. I like the pacing is so much of it. I like investigating each little character and each little, I think the writing is exactly what I'm looking for in that type of game. And I've been pretty blown away by it multiple times. Just like, there's like an audacity to it. Or maybe it's a confidence. They know what they're making, and they don't want to just rush to the next thing because that would be the right thing to do for pacing purposes, or for like classic video game pacing purposes. You know what I mean? Like, we got to get people to the next story point. We got to get to this. And I just, I'm really taken aback by it. I really, really am. And I didn't necessarily expect that. I did, like, as much as I love Control, I did not expect that to translate into an Alan Wake sequel, just because of what Alan Wake 1 was and my feelings about that game. And I tried to play Alan Wake 1 multiple times. I was just like, I can't. I don't like anything about anything this game's putting down. Just the early parts of the story, the gameplay, like, just like kind of top to bottom, all of it just hit me just like, ugh, I don't want to mess with this. It's just not, it doesn't feel like a good use of time or whatever it is, but yeah, for whatever reason, Alan Wake 1, I just didn't want anything to do with it. And yeah, I'm finding this game to be phenomenal. I'm finding it to be like, even the little bits and pieces of it where you're like, the the placing of clues on the board could be a little smoother or whatever. Like, there's also something kind of relaxing about spending some time there and just plotting out even if it's things you've already solved yourself, because you don't always have to go back to that to open up the next path. There are some cases where it seems like you do, but there are definitely cases where you figured out a thing in game and then you just have a bunch of items to put on the board, and they're things you've already done. And I find that even in those little moments of just like, okay, let's catch up here. Yeah, we did that. Oh, I remember we did that. Like, it's really effective at driving the story in, so you remember those key bits. but also I think, for it's a really effective at kind of helping to pace things out and get you on to the next story beat and where's the next thing and why. Like it ends up being a really effective mechanism. And I think it's really smart. It's really smart. That whole thing, really smart. So yeah, I want to get through the rest of that. I know there's a thing in it. I've seen enough to have a loose understanding of what it is, and boy, oh boy, it sounds amazing. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting through the rest of it. I've played a little chunk of Robocop. What is the subtitle? Robocop Rogue City. I need to play some more of this, so I don't have that much to say about it, other than it's weird. I like it so far. It is it seems like a game that has a handful of good ideas that you won't want to see over the course of an entire game. But out of the gate, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess you want to be Robocop. Like, I maybe you should turn it on. I don't know. Maybe is there a way to turn on more scan lines while you're playing the game? Because if they're gonna make a first-person Robocop game, I at least want it to look more like the shitty video feed that they always displayed in the movie when they had first-person Robocop vision. I should check and see, but playing through the first mission and then a little bit in the police station, and also digging through the menus and seeing a bunch of like very like not huge, but there's a bunch of skill tree stuff in there that you're like, oh, wait a minute, what the fuck is this game you made? This isn't just a like standard dumb first person shooter. Like it feels like very extremely light immersive sim is what that is, the vibe that game gives off, right? It is like really like, okay, there's you kind of tried to do something here, and they did a good job at the beginning, the opening cutscene where they're trying to replicate the newscasts from the movie. They do a pretty good job there. I think tonally, at least from what I've seen so far, like they do okay. But it also leans really heavy on the like, well, I don't know where this fits in the timeline. Not that it matters, I guess. Maybe they didn't really care, but in the first mission, they lean really heavily on the Robocop is tripping out because he remembers he's Alex Murphy, and he's having hallucinations about his family and all this other stuff, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's kind of that's Robocop 1 there. Okay, so it's between Robocop 2 and 3. That's probably the right place to set it because no one wants to do anything with Robocop 3. It's terrible, but it does have Nuke in it. Like Nuke, the drug from Robocop 2, factors into it, and I appreciate. Nuke was the if you had to like take one thing out of Robocop 2 and say let's use this, it would Nuke is it really. So I guess at least it's got that, but it's that game seems like it is grimy and maybe kind of bad in some ways, but also I really appreciate it, or at least early on, in terms of it being just kind of maybe not something you would want to pay full price for, I guess I would say, but it seems interesting. I need to play more of it to kind of get into the bulk of that game. It's from what Teon. They did that Terminator game, right? That was similarly serviceable, I guess I would say. Not a great game, that Terminator game. right? They have. Okay, yes, Terminator Resistance is the game they did, which was not a fantastic video game. Okay for what it was. Like, you get it on a sale or something, you're going to be like, hey, this is like solid for what it is. It's, we talk about B games. We talk about games that just don't, a lot of games that kind of just don't exist anymore, like in terms of scope and size and all that stuff. But, they're not charging $40 for this thing either, I don't believe. Let's double check. That's $50 unless you want Alex Murphy edition, which is an extra $20. Vanguard pack and Alex Murphy pack. What even is this? The OCP shotgun sidearm, the hero's damaged armor taken from the first Robocop film, and the prototype version of the gun, the Auto 9 gun. Okay, so skins. I'm gonna drink this real quick. I had the name, I saved it for weeks, and then my desk got totally fucking meltzered over here, so I'm not gonna ruffle through all the papers for it. But someone sent me a few cans of something called Black Energy. Original. King of the Night. I don't know where this is from. I don't know what part of is this Austria? Anyway, it's not a low calorie drink, so we're not going to put it on the list, but I'm finally cracking one open. I just want to. It's Red Bull. Yeah, this is pretty much Red Bull. Okay. I like Red Bull, so hey. Oh, it's from Big Lots? Okay, so not some weird Austrian drink. Okay. Nice. I like Robocop. I think it's really hard to make Robocop stuff. Because Robocop is such a satire and such a funny thing. And so many things in the wake of it have just tried to be like, look at this awesome fucking robot dude with gun. He'll smoke a motherfucker for freedom. He'll do it for freedom. He's saving Detroit. Robocop 2, Robocop 3, they're bad. The cartoon, real weird. There's that TV show too, right? They shot in Canada. Oof. But this seems all right so far for what it is. It's janky. It's maybe I feel like it fits right alongside that Terminator game as like, it's not all, it's not these are not great video games. These are not going to go down in history as like, look at this. But I really liked the game based on the movie Wanted. Remember the guy they could curve the bullets? Angelina Jolie's in it. Common's in it. I think it's based on a comic book, and by going like this with a pistol, they can make bullets curve. I thought that was a pretty good movie. I thought that movie was all right. I caught the end of it because I think it was on, before fucking AEW or something. They finally had a good movie on for a change. That movie was all right. It's a fucking ancient loom that tells assassins who to kill and they can curve bullets. But then what if someone corrupted the loom and was controlling who it was killing? Yes, what if? I don't know. Morgan Freeman, what if? Yeah, yes, what if? So yeah, it's great. James McAvoy is great in it. And they made a game based on it that is basically Gears of War, but you could curve bullets. And that's it. It's not as good as Gears of War. It's not some AAA big, Grin made it. Grin did this shit, and I think they really rocked it. Yeah, that Wanted game was pretty cool for what it was. And I can't imagine that game would hold up. It's on Steam. Zorg is saying it is on Steam. How much do they want for a copy of Wanted these days? Oh god, the whole thing refreshed here. No, I don't want Need for Speed Most Wanted. No, I don't want Five Nights at Freddy's. What? I'm not seeing it here. Maybe it's here somewhere, but it's just a common term. Oh well. Anyway, this reminds me of that. Robocop kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Yes, Wanted Weapons of Fate. That's what it is. Yeah, no, it is not. It is not on Steam. Maybe it got delisted or something. But I have an Xbox 360 copy out here somewhere. Out there somewhere. Out in a storage locker somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know. I want to play more Robocop. I also played a little bit of Wild Card Football, which is an arcadey football game. It has real players in it and cards. This is from Saber did this, and so it's kind of, it's got like a packs and cards and gotcha mechanic with football players that seems super fucking gross. Colin Kaepernick is in it as well. At least he's on one of the menus. I don't think he's on my team. I don't know what you got to do to get to him. But I'm always interested in a arcade style sports game. I at least want to try them all out and see if one of them are any good. And Wild Card Football, I think, has good bones, but a lot of the mechanics around building your team and opening packs to get like, oh, it's a 4-star version of this guy, and oh, his stats are this, and like that shit. I just don't even care enough about these players to engage with it. I don't even know who any of them are. So I'm just like opening packs and going like, this guy's a 53. I don't care who he is. He's a 50 fucking 3. In game, it's not bad in terms of like you can pass and do stiff arms, and like there's little bits of blitz in there, little bits and pieces that like you can see where they kind of were taking some inspiration from NFL blitz, but not enough. And also, it's got this card mechanic where because it's called Wild Card Football. You are building up points after every play, and so you can play cards. Basically, you have 4 cards before each down, and you can go like, I want to play this card and this card. I have enough points to play this card and this card. And then the play goes on. And some of them are like, oh, the opposing team gets negative 80% stamina for the next play. And oh, the speed boost here. And it's like the swings are dramatic, and also the pacing, what it does to you trying to just play a goddamn football game of stopping play so you can stare at these cards and be like, what the fuck am I doing? Also sucks. And so I think the crux of the game having these cards and all of this other stuff actually is the thing that ruins it. It's a good little game of football. It's just all this stuff just gets in the way. But it's a decent little arcade football game, but I don't want to engage with any of this cards and building a deck of stamina reducing speed. It only lasts for 1 down, and then I got to build up 4 more points before I can use another card or what. It's just like, I fuck it that. I don't fuck that, I think is what I just said. Fuck it that. What I don't know. It gets in the way. It's unfortunate because there's something at the core of it. You're like, I wouldn't mind playing this against somebody, but I don't want to dick around with all of the cards and all of the stuff, and I don't want to buy packs, and I don't want to level up teams, and I don't that's not why I'm there. So that stuff I think really drags it down from what I played of it. That's it for games. I haven't been able to get any time with WarioWare in just yet. Little bit, but it requires a little space. So I went to go download it on the Switch Lite that I have around, and I was like, oh right, this is a Joy-Cons off game, right? Right. So, yeah, messed with it a little bit, but not enough to say anything intelligent about it just yet. So, I'll check it out this week, and we'll see how it is. I don't know. Yeah. Let's get into the news. Breaking news. The Epic Game Store is still not profitable. I don't think this is actually news. I don't this doesn't seem like something this was revealed in court. Remember how Epic went to court with Apple and tried to unseat Apple's kind of stranglehold on the App Store and all that sort of stuff? Well, they're doing the same thing with Google now after a couple years of that. This was all just kind of on the docket waiting to happen and all this sort of stuff. So we're getting basically more court documents as it relates to Epic and as it relates a little bit to Google. And Steve Allison took the stand. He is currently the head of the Epic, the game store division of Epic. And he basically said, "Yeah, no, we're not making money." And that's interesting. I don't think that that's necessarily like a huge shocker. Because they're trying to, they're trying to what? They're trying to build a base. They're trying to build up a base of customers. The Epic thing is weird, man, because we're also looking at this from the perspective of, hey, Fortnite just had its biggest day ever. They had their Fortnite OG rolled out, where I guess they brought back the original map. And that led to their biggest day of concurrent players ever. So like Fortnite is doing fine. They just raised the price of V-Bucks, and I'm sure that game is making some money. But also, like, they're trying to build around it. Like, so what do? You've got all of these customers coming to you for Fortnite. Now you make them download this store client, unless they're playing on console. I wonder what the percentage breakdown is on that these days. Like, it's on Switch, it's on all these platforms. Like, what is the... how does this back into... what percentage of the Fortnite player base is actually playing on PC, where they would be exposed to the Epic Game Store and the free games and all of that sort of stuff? Like, because they're all making Epic accounts, but that doesn't mean they're ever seeing, like, hey man, this fucking indie deck building dice rolling sim is free this week. It was also free 2 years ago. And it's free again because we're rotating through them again, sort of. But whatever that number is, it's probably still a pretty decent number. But yeah, I don't know. Like, how many players are just like playing Fortnite and then clicking OK on the free games every week, so that they're building up a library? Because that's the path, right? Is okay, you get the Fortnite players looking at a storefront. You tell them, hey, if you engage with this storefront, there's like 2 free games here all the time. And so they get used to going through the payment flow, because every time you acquire a free game on your Epic account, you still go to checkout. You still have to have an email address. You still, there's still things you have to do that are like you were making a real purchase. And so you're closer and closer and closer to making a real purchase, and maybe having a credit card in there. Maybe you bought some V-Bucks or, whatever. But like, how many people make it to that third step on the ladder of, oh, I guess I should buy Dead Island 2? Or, holy shit, Alan Wake 2 is out. What's the crossover between Fortnite players and Alan Wake 2 fans? It's not zero. I mean, but But yes, Steve Allison got on the stand and basically said the store is not profitable, and that they're still in a growth phase. That's according to Kotaku's distillation of it. And I'm trying to think if there's any other kind of big a big thing here around any of this kind of storefront stuff. The Verge has kind of like blow by blow minutes from the testimony almost. Google objected to Epic Game Store boss Steve Allison telling the jury that the reason it never launched a game store on Android was because all the warnings that come from the Android platform when you do a direct download were off-putting. Allison testifies that after the Epic Game Store launched with an 88-12 split, Valve's Steam, Microsoft's Windows Store, and Discord all reacted by giving more money to developers too. Which, you know, good. I mean, that's, you have to, yes. Epic did that. And it's, I guess, okay. So emails during the Apple trial, this is again according to The Verge, suggested that the company was hoping to claim half of all PC gaming revenue. That's their goal for the Epic Game Store, is to basically be pulling in 50% of all PC game revenue. That seems seems like they would be a long way away from that. I think that there's a lot of stuff that when we spend all this time talking about the Epic Game Store and its path to growth and their trek to become this, I didn't realize that was their goal, but I mean, you know, hey, their goal is to make as much money as possible, right? So, okay, if their goal is 50%, and then what? The other 50 goes to Steam. And then the Windows Store gets, you know, whatever, 0.5% or something like that. The Epic client is not friendly. The Epic client is often sluggish. When you click on it, it sometimes takes a long time to respond. When you click to launch a game, sometimes it takes a long time to respond. Like, there are just so many fit and finish. There's so many usability issues that client has that, like, they can go do all the deals, right? They can say, fuck it, we're going to publish Alan Wake 2. They can say, hey, we're going to do deals with Borderlands. We're going to do deals with Dead Island 2, whatever else, man. Like, they can go do their deals, but the process of going and acquiring those games is negative because the client itself, I mean, I'm surprised that it's been like this long. Like, if these are their goals, that, like, I wonder what the roadblock is, because, like, it, to me, as someone who has no idea what's going on over there at this point, to be clear, this is not me trying to, like, have some internal argument surfaced or whatever. But, like, from the outside looking in, I just wonder, like, is the team responsible for the Epic client severely underpowered? Do they just not have enough people to get shit done? Because all of those people are out there making deals instead. Like, it just seems like there's, like, you go and you look at the Trello board for the Epic Game Store client, and they're like, yeah, we got all this stuff, and we're kicking this one out another 9 months, and this feature is coming. Like, there was at times a roadmap, and I think they still have some kind of roadmap. But again, man, there's so much. I'm surprised that it hasn't been made more of a priority. Like, part and parcel with making deals and you know, hey, we want to make sure that people get Dead Island 2 and all this other store stuff. Like, the process of launching the Epic client and using it to buy a game, to go through the process of searching their store, all of that sort of stuff, it's really unpleasant because everything takes longer than it should. Like, the tabs don't load as fast as they should. The clicks don't register as fast as they should. There are just multiple times every time I have a session in that client where I ask myself, did it break? Did it just lock up? What just happened here? And I would think that would be something of a priority. Like, okay, you know, like, hey, they're in growth mode. They want to become profitable. Like, that's just one of those baffling usability things to me that I just look at and go, like, wouldn't you also want to make sure that this stuff is really slick? Like, you're Epic. It's not the GOG client, for the love of God. When the GOG client is sluggish, you look at it and go, well, yeah. And also because the GOG client is trying to bring in every single game I have on Game Pass and all of the other fucking, every time I load it, it is trying to load like 9,000 video games into the client and list their box shots and stuff. So, and so it's always a little funky. But it's shocking to me that the Epic client is still in this state after this long. It's easy to forget, right? But it is just a weird, funky, sluggish process that it just seems like it should be better. It seems like it should be slicker. It feels like it should be better at putting games in front of people than it is. It feels like the libraries should just be snappier. Whatever's going on with it, it just, and I have a lot of games in my Epic Games Store library, so it is always possible that it is just another issue of like, oh, if you have a lot of games, turns out it runs like garbage. But I don't necessarily think it's that. It's, even the store pages, even the basic pages themselves just never feel like they're running the way they should. So I don't know. It's just weird, it's really, it's one of those really weird things to me that you just feel like if you were and this isn't, I don't think the Steam client is like perfection, right? But I think generally speaking, it works. I feel okay leaving the Steam client running on my desktop all the time. With Epic, I don't, because it always feels like it's doing something fucking weird. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the Epic Store is not profitable. I think a pass on the store client itself would be helpful there personally. Make that a more pleasant experience instead of just like, here's this weird gray, dark, black window that doesn't perform very well. And God forbid you're trying to filter your library down to a certain type of game or games you have installed. Take forever. Yeah, not a great experience. Also not having a great experience, the Glory Society. This was the co-op, I guess, founded to kind of work on a game called, they were putting together, they were going to work on a game called Revenant Hill. They've showed some bits and pieces of this. This is the folks that made Night in the Woods with some additional collaborators and so on and so forth, forming a new studio. And I believe Finji was going to publish Revenant Hill. I say was because the Glory Society has decided to suspend operations. Let's see here. They just posted this morning. We've been lucky to have, games take a while to, I'm gonna just read bits and pieces here. Games take a while to make and usually require a good team working together. We've been lucky to have one such good team. Unfortunately, recent serious health issues have necessitated 2 key members stepping away from the project indefinitely. We're a small team and we each wear multiple hats. This is a loss of several hard to replace hats in an environment where all hats are needed. Given the realities of schedules, budgets, and the fraught task of reworking the whole project within those parameters, the team has amicably decided to suspend operations. For all intents and purposes, this is the end of the development of Revenant Hill. In the future, after the dust has settled, perhaps we'll talk about what we've made and learned together. In the meantime, we want to thank everyone who worked with us, supported us, believed in us. Yeah, so that's, wow. Hopefully everyone kind of turns out okay on that. I know I've seen one of those folks posting about some health stuff online at times without really getting into too much detail, but it sounded unpleasant. And that's unfortunate. Revenant Hill looked cool. Night in the Woods was cool. This was not necessarily, this was not a sequel to Night in the Woods, but you look at it and go like, okay, this is the next game in the, this is kind of some similarities there in terms of art style and so on and so forth. And so I was looking forward to seeing what this was going to take shape and become. But alas, here we are. Best of luck to everyone on that. That's it's a very adult decision, to amicably say, hey, we're gonna just walk away from this thing because we can't, we're not gonna try to cram this thing through without key members of it and so on and so forth, right? Yeah. We've gotten some additional detail on Bungie and some of the path forward here. It's kind of, they have not yet, part of the rumors and some of the talk around these layoffs were also that they were going to delay the next expansion, the final shape, from February into June. They still have not officially confirmed that. I also don't think they have. Part of that was also saying that Marathon was going to be delayed until 2025. And I don't believe that's been officially confirmed either. There was talk, there's also kind of been some of the talk that's been coming out around the layoffs and around kind of the situation at Bungie kind of gets into this idea that, Destiny 2 missed its mark by 45%. And so just financially, the game was getting upside down. And I guess that when I think about my experience, what seemed like it was going to be my final experience with Destiny 2 for a good while, it kind of rings true. They posted something on the 2nd, kind of acknowledging the layoffs, and kind of acknowledging kind of the state of the game a little bit in a few words here, that whether you think that they have the credibility to say this sort of stuff or not, I think is maybe an individual call. But they said, hey, this has been one of the most difficult weeks in our studio's history, as we've parted ways with people we respect and admire. We spent this week supporting one another, including those who were at the studio, as well as friends and colleagues who no longer are. We want to acknowledge the feedback and concerns you have about Lightfall and recent seasons, as well as your responses to the reveal of the final shape. We know we have lost a lot of your trust. Destiny needs to surprise and delight. We haven't done this enough, and that's going to change. To us, the path forward is clear. We need to make the final shape an unforgettable Destiny experience. We want to build something that will be regarded along the best games we've ever made, a fitting culmination that honors the journey we've been on together for the past 10 years. Forsaken, the Witch Queen, and the Taken King, these are the standard bearers we aim to live up to. Destiny 2 has more than 650 dedicated teammates, pouring all their energy and expertise into delivering this. In the weeks ahead, you'll be hearing more from us about what's next on the short-term horizon, beginning with our next season in late November, and so on and so forth. I uninstalled with the last big update that they launched. I started playing through it, and I got the weird plant grappling hook thing that was not fun to use, and just the game. I have played a lot of Destiny over the years, and I have had a lot of great times with Destiny 2, but I think I got to a point with it where I was just not enjoying anything about the game anymore. It's like the shooting's good and the base level combat is fine, but I've done a lot of that. And when you see kind of the same mechanisms for just like, this is the thing you're going to walk up to this season to spend your seasonal currency, look out, it's right next to this other thing from 2 seasons ago, and there's this giant pile of gold you can talk to if you want to spend the currency from this season, and then go over here and do this. Like, the game just got more and more cluttered with activities that just seemed um, boring, tedious, frustrating. And so I got to a point with it where I was like, I'm done doing this. I'm not, I'm not interested in doing this. I don't care about their multiplayer, their competitive multiplayer modes at all anymore. I was never a big Crucible guy, but the Gambit mode stuff, I was just like, all right, whatever, man. Just done with that stuff, and done with loading it up and being like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, they reworked the quest log in ways that, like, I still managed to load it up and start working on quests that are from like 3 expansions ago that I'd never finished, and just going like, oh, okay. I thought I was going to try to make progress on new stuff, but I guess I ended up doing this instead. Okay. It's a game that I feel got very repetitive. And I'm also like not interested in any of the cosmetics really, or just like, I need to show this off to other players. Like, I don't care about it. Like, they made a live service open world, multiplayer thing, and I just don't give a fuck about other players in that game. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm like, okay, it's cool that raids exist, and I've had a good time raiding in the past, but I'm maybe never gonna get a team together to do another raid ever again. It might just never happen, and that's fine. But then what's left for me? And you're like, oh, like, a lot of this stuff is, yeah, you tell me I gotta pick up this ball and I gotta go dunk it into something? Okay, well, I guess I'll give that a shot. That sounds new. Like, it's just, it's unfortunate. Well, whatever. There's a lot of unfortunate. I mean, it's unfortunate that people lost their jobs. There's a lot of, there's a ton of stuff. But like, I just, when I look at Destiny 2, or the last time I looked at Destiny 2, and I did reinstall it thinking like, oh, well, now that I've got all this hard drive space, I can afford to have Destiny 2 installed again. But never fired it up. I'm interested in seeing what they try to put together for this big culmination expansion. I hope it's a story that people can experience largely on their own if they desire. They were always pretty good about having campaigns that you could just play. And I would consider playing another one of those, but also, like I said, at this point, I've played a lot of Destiny 2, and I don't want to play more of that. It's going to need to have exciting and fun changes, new enemies, way more new stuff. I feel like it's been the knock against that game for a long time. It was like, oh, the Hive is back. Do they have any new enemies? No, but one of them ducks now. Like, oh, rad. It just always needed more. Always. And and I think the other thing is I got to a point where you have this realization, and a lot of live games are like this, but I feel like maybe the way Destiny 2 did it was just more naked than others or something. But it was this feeling that like, oh, well, I could spend a bunch of time trying to grind my way to some kind of mythical power cap for whatever this season or whatever this year is or something like that. Or I could just never give a fuck about that stuff, but because the entire game the bulk of the story content is going to scale to whatever level I am, at least at the start. And sometimes they've done a bad job at that. And I don't need to ever care about weapons or power or gear or anything or builds. Like, they have all these updates where they're just like, we've really put the art of building, you can really make the build exactly how you want it. And I'm like, all right, I don't know. Like, I'm never near the power cap, so I never have to care. I'm still at a point where I'm caring about the raw number on my gear because I'm not near the cap. I don't have to go like, oh, well, now I need to min-max this and that. And it's like, no. A gun dropped. Is the number higher? Yes. Great. Let's go. I'm not going to play enough of this to ever have to care about that element of the game, because that's something they reserve for, something when you're kind of near the end of the power curve. It's good because I don't want to dick around with that stuff. I don't want to have to sit here and stare at that. Do I want this and that? Like, no. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what they're making. And we'll see when they make it and when it makes it out the door. Nintendo had a financial call, according to Eurogamer. The president of Nintendo, Shintaro Furukawa, denied all the reports that they were showing off early demos for the next Switch hardware, or for the next Nintendo hardware, I guess. Rumors are circulating mainly on the internet as if they were public information, but they are inaccurate. Specifically citing the above reports on Nintendo showing Switch 2 at Gamescom and discussing the future hardware with publishers last year, Furukawa described these as untrue. So it's a pretty blanket denial for some rumors that have some pretty substantial details alongside them, including which sorts of demos they saw at Gamescom, like some fairly detailed stuff. Also, of course, Nintendo would deny this stuff when asked. They have not announced it yet, so they're definitely just going to be like, what? No. What? No. Like, they have, like a lot of companies, they have blatantly, like extremely denied rumors about things that were extremely true. So, who can say? But also some of these, there were emails from Bobby Kotick, and like remember those emails that leaked out of whatever the FTC case with Microsoft, that they've had discussions about what the next hardware can do, and with some specificity, in ways that you just go like, oh well, they're not going to lie in emails to each other over at Activision, where they're not just going to make it up. So. PlayStation is removing Twitter integration from the PlayStation 4 and 5. I know we're all heartbroken about this. I know we're pretty torn up about our inability to share screenshots and trophies to Twitter or whatever. This is going to be coming out of the console on the consoles, PS4 and PS5, on November 13th. Do you think the next set of consoles will still have a share button? Do you think that that's something that is still going to happen? Do you think that's something we still need? I think that button, I wish that button on PlayStation was a select button and was of use in games, instead of push on the left side of the trackpad or the right side of the trackpad, which I hate as an input. So yeah, I wonder, just pull up couldn't you just pull up the menu interface and hit a button there to do it? That's what the Xbox used to do. Like, screenshot this, like, but like it, we're entering this era where, and social media, who gives a fuck, right? It's kind of happening a little bit more brazenly now than maybe it has been. For the for like regular people, I don't know, but like the idea that people like, I need to share my gameplay on social media, we got to post this to Facebook. Like, who cares? Like, who the fuck cares? So yeah, this got me thinking about what would the next set of consoles have in this. Yeah, you could do a share to TikTok, but then TikTok doesn't want 16:9 videos. And so they'd have to, you'd have to have a share factory setting for vertical videos that puts a bunch of bullshit, and like, okay, you can put your game footage up here, and then down here is going to be a scene from John Wick, and he's going to be fighting dudes. And then over in the corner is a toy car knocking down dominoes. We got to make sure people watch this shit, right? Like I don't, the nature of TikTok and the kind of short form, whether it's YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels or whatever else, is so not built for check out this gameplay clip unless you've done a lot of work to it that no one that's just going to push a capture button is going to want to do. Maybe you capture it and then you're going to export it and do something later. So that's something, like you can, I guess, view your screenshots and capture clips and stuff like that via the PlayStation app. And then you could export those to some other app if you wanted to do that. Like that's certainly still an option. But like, I don't know, like there are certainly, I'm not saying that gameplay of video games does not do well on TikTok. It certainly can. But when I feel like when I see those videos, they are so carved up, they are so worked on so heavily that the idea of just, I'm going to push this button and here's 30 seconds of gameplay or whatever, like that's not gonna cut it. Polygon notes that they removed that same integration from the Xbox like back in April. No one, doesn't seem like a lot of complaints there. Every time I post to Twitter now, which is, I will grant you, not very often, it feels like the first reply I get is from, and if you're looking for some really low rent pornography, here's a tip for you. Go look at my replies on Twitter. Because there's usually someone in there, or there's usually a bot in there that is like posting a blurred image, or, you got to click to reveal it or something that is like, what do you think of these? Or, whatever it is. And then you click on it and it's not actual nudity. And you're like, what is this lingerie bullshit? I think it's 2023. If you're going to blur this out, and there's some, go dig through, there's some boobs in there. But just a real, just like, what is happening? So I just, that platform, it has gotten so bad. Like I will still kind of, I load it up once a week or something now, maybe. And I'm always like shocked that like there are people I follow that are still like posting the way they always have. Cause I like that to me seems like crazy. I was looking at it, go like, oh, still having convos over here, huh? Okay, I guess. Cause it's just gotten so crummy. It's just it is such a bad experience across the board. Not that this isn't me saying like you've got to post on Blue Sky. It's really just like, I think I think Twitter is just super fucking grimy and gross, and a lot of the replies are fucking super shitty, and the people that are paying for the subscription that lets them float their replies to the top of a thing, they're always weird. They always seem to be the dumbest. So I don't really know. I do like Blue Sky. I think Threads is fucking terrible. I've been posting on Tumblr more, but like I've been posting garbage on Tumblr. Like I'm not posting anything of value on Tumblr. I like Co-host a lot, but like Co-host is like Tumblr. Co-host is not something I would ever view as like a Twitter replacement. Co-host is too good. I like reading everything I see on Co-host. I like to read. Someone asking why is Blue Sky invite only? Because they're kind of ramping it up slowly. They're sort of trying to, it's not quite ready for prime time. They just turned on their version of Federation like last night, and so that's a good sign that they're looking for ways to scale up. but I feel like most of the people I know that are on Blue Sky that have invites are like out of people to give them to. They're just like, yeah, I don't know. I got it. Anyone else want invites? No, you got it. You all have them. Okay. All right, great. And so I don't know. I don't know if Blue Sky is hitting a weird wall or something, but Blue Sky's been fine. I don't know. I'm following some of the same people I followed on Twitter, but I'm also following a lot of different game people that I did not follow on Twitter. And so I've been finding it good for that. And I don't know. I've been finding it good for that. But like the over on the Discord, you go to patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann, you sign up, you hop on that Discord. I have not seen some people posting some Blue Sky invites in the chat on Twitch right now. I have seen people post invites there that then don't get used. And people are just like, yeah, no, I already got one. Like I'm good. But yeah, I don't know. Blue Sky is fine. Like it's not, there's some people that are like, oh, it's this type of person. It's blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, it just doesn't have an algorithm. It doesn't, you have to kind of dig a little bit. It's not quite the same. I like some of the ideas they have for how they intend to grow it, but we'll see. At some point, it's like this realization of just like, all of this shit sucks. But I don't know. I like it fine. Bunch of people left The Escapist. The Escapist is a website about video games. It's been out there for a good long time. It's had a lot of ups and downs. It's had a lot of ups and downs over the years. And it kind of got, it feels like in recent history, it got bounced around a bit between a few different owners. And I guess the long and short of it, the editor-in-chief, Nick Calandra, was fired and a bunch of people split, including Ben Croshaw, better known as Yahtzee, perhaps better known as the guy from the Zero Punctuation videos. And so that's it for The Escapist, I'm guessing, because Zero Punctuation was the thing that propped that thing up for through the dark times. And it seemed like that they had done a pretty good job of getting it back together and doing a good job of building something respectable. But it sounds like maybe that was not enough for the current owners. A company called Gamers Group, GAMURS, which is great because it makes them sound like fucking idiots. We're the Gamers Group. Like, what? Are you fucking serious? You guys, like, I don't know anything about that company. They automatically sound like the biggest dipshits in the world. This is that group has owned it for the past couple of years. Before that, they were owned by a Canadian posse called Enthusiast Gaming, I think is the name of that. And then Enthusiast Gaming had owned Destructoid and Escapist, and they dealt both of those sites to Gamers Group a couple of years ago. And so, yeah, I don't know. There's the history lesson on The Escapist. I would say go look it up for yourself. It's a really bumpy, weird road where the original co-founder got into some fucking foul shit, and then they, years after that, the editor-in-chief got into some weird fucking Twitter fight with just some real dumb shit over the years. Over there on The Escapist. But like I said, it seemed like that they had been kind of putting it back together and doing some good work. But as it happens, when you put it back together for a company that doesn't care about it, they will still fire you. So, yeah. That team, or I don't know if it's I don't know if it's everyone that left or what the deal is here, but they are looking to start something new called Second Wind. And looks like at the bare minimum, Nick Calandra and Yahtzee will be a part of that. And I believe they'll be confirming plans on that tomorrow. Also, the Aftermath launched today. That's Peter Jackson and Nathan Grayson and Chris Person, some other folks. They got their thing out there. Aftermath is really... I had a really short list of things to name a thing, and Aftermath was on that list. So good name. Yeah, they're out there writing about video games. I know that's crazy. I wanted the whole thing I wanted to do in calling a thing Aftermath, which maybe this is how you get sued. But I can't find it. I believe it was either an issue. It was either an issue of Double XL or the Source. I think it was the Source. That when Dr. Dre got out of death row and started Aftermath, there was a picture of him running away from fire. There was a picture of him it was like a picture of him in full sprint with fire behind him. Like he was like, fuck this, and like running away. And I always wanted to recreate that photo. It's very like that. That's always something that is when I think about running away, shouting "fuck this." That's when you start something new, right? So yeah, cool. Some more outlets out there trying to forge an independent path. And that's good. It's getting crowded, which is probably good, hopefully. And I just, the way that the website business is working these days at these larger companies and the types of money they feel like they need to be returning on investment in order for a thing to matter to them is increasingly unrealistic in today's market, and the ad market being what it is, and the this and that. And so like this situation at the Escapist, with the little bits of details that have kind of come out about what the situation was there, it's not surprising. I look at it and go like, yeah, that's, you could take the paragraph of text that was, I think it was posted on the Escapist Discord about like, here's what's been going on over here. It sucks. And you could apply it to just about every other publication that's done layoffs in the past chunk of time. I'm just like, oh yeah, no, that's, yeah. Someone in a suit wants to make more money on this than is reasonably possible right now. I had a conversation with a person who was pretty high up at one of these companies that owns a lot of websites, I guess I would say. This was 2 years ago, to a couple of years, 2.5, something like that. It was when I was starting to kind of poke around and be like, what the fuck's out there and what would be interesting to do? And so I met with this guy, and he had a couple of properties in his portfolio that were gaming properties. And basically he said, like, what can I do with these things? And they'd both been around for a long time. They were pretty well set. They're good, honest websites, but they're not websites that are going to magically turn viral overnight and suddenly start making 10 times as much money as they are, or it's not like, if left to their own devices, it's not going to be something that's going to suddenly blow up. And over the course of the conversation, it became clear that that's what they needed. If they wanted to care about these properties that they had acquired, it was going to be a situation of, we need to be like getting $5 to $10 back for every dollar we invest in this for it to matter to us. And if that means we need to invest more money, great. But like that return needs to be, like a break-even company. Who cares? Who cares? And it makes sense from that perspective, because if you're running a big business, especially if you're like a publicly traded company, like, what are you going to do with a break-even business? It's just going to sit there, and you're going to go like, okay, well, we don't lose anything, but we don't gain anything. And the investors want us to gain things. We're not here to not make money. We're not here to break even and do this for the next 20 years. We're here to pump this valuation up for investors and then sell it and laugh. Right? And so like the answer was like, hey, don't, you shouldn't, like the honest answer there is like, yeah, you probably shouldn't own this thing. Or, yeah, if like those are the bets you need to place, like, I don't know if you went and dumped 15 new people on this website that had been around for, I don't know, a decade or more at that point, I forget. That's not going to make it suddenly blow up into 10 things, or, like you could take that money and start something new and have a better shot at it. Something that was more better suited for fucking TikTok success or whatever the fuck, right? And I think that's the harsh reality of it. Is I think when you look at it from the perspective of what these fucking companies want to get out of these properties, it's just not reasonable for where these properties are at right now. It's not reasonable for where advertising on the web is. And that's just an unrealistic goal to have. And so if that's your goal, and I don't know that was the goal here, then yeah, you're going to fire the editor-in-chief at some point. And yeah, you're going to roll everybody out of there. You'll be like, well, fuck it. Like we can take the money we were paying them and we can go hire, a bunch of college kids and have them make wacky videos for the TikTok. Is that the thing now? What's the thing now? And then they walk around the office going, what's the thing now? What can we hire people to do that's the thing now? What's our, how do we get our 10 to 1, our 5 to 1, our 3 to 1, whatever our specific business needs are. I think back in the day, and by back in the day, I mean 3 years ago or something, we were trying to do, they wanted 3 to 1 or something out of us. I forget. And it's easy to see why these things happen. The interests are not aligned. I think a lot of people that cover video games, I think a lot of people that are working in journalism are not doing it because they're fucking getting rich at it. That's for fucking sure. They're doing it because they care about the space. Then they want to, this is the work they want to do. This is the work they feel passionate about. And that only works up to a point at a company, at any of these companies, man. Like, oh, you're passionate about this thing. That's great. Can you work 300 hours doing it? Is it that kind of passion? Is it the kind of passion we can exploit and not have to hire more people? Because we can do that up until you stop returning on investment. And then we have to figure out what's wrong and cram you full of affiliate deals and bullshit and fuck the whole thing up. How's that sound? Sound good? Great. So yeah, it's just the situation right now is not conducive for that type of thing to exist at a company like Gamers Group or something like that. And I don't know anything about them, but I'm, I know enough about other companies that own similar properties and the way things have gotten shut down and fucked up and everything else to look at that and go, yeah, this looks exactly like, not exactly, but it looks close enough to, maybe what happened at Fanbyte and maybe what happened at, like you see enough familiarity across this stuff. These go like, yeah, I've been through this ringer a few times myself. It's frustrating, but like, it's why, when I say that I don't think the time is right to go do a big thing, it's because of that, it's because of that sort of stuff, but like at the same time, I think, there are plenty of opportunities for people to band together and do reasonably sized, smaller things. And that's what we're seeing a lot more of, Remap Radio, obviously, with Patrick and them getting out of Vice, and now this Escapist thing, Easy Allies has been at it for a good long time. And, it's yeah, I don't know. It's a bad weird market. Because I look at it and go like, I think there's a huge opportunity to do something actually big. But not right now. I think that there's I think that time will come again. And I think it'll, but like there's going to have to be, I don't know. I won't get into too much of it here. I guess is the short version of that. But like there are things, there are things that would have to align for a lot of that stuff to make sense. And a lot of this stuff is still out of whack. And so that's why it's very easy for me to say every time this happens, I don't think this is done happening. Because I think there's still stuff out there that will probably get shook loose one way or the other. And there has to be a new way. And perhaps all of this independent stuff is forging that new way. But I think there's room for more. I don't know. There's the things I think would be important to building a new thing. It just doesn't feel like it's quite there yet, and maybe it will be, and maybe it never will be. I don't know. It's weird right now, But yeah, someone in chat says one of these indie outlets will get big enough that a company will want to buy it, and then the cycle will start anew. Yeah, yes. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone wants to retire someday, right? Everyone would like to be in a position where they are able to retire, and maybe that's a complete pipe dream for everyone writing about video games. I don't know, but yeah, that's sometimes when independent things sell to companies, it's because the people involved see this concept of like, well, I've got to get some kind of chunk of money if I'm ever gonna be able to not if I'm not going to like work myself into the ground or get to a point where it's like, hey, I'm not going to be able to, feed my family anymore because this type of content has gone out of vogue or this is that, it's so that, that's why a company sells, is because, the people, like it was the thing, when there was some talk about, there's like a quote from Valve talking about, I think it was the year 2023, or talking about, they're like, oh, we'll all be long retired by then. And like, no, they're fucking not. Not that there's some ragtag indie outfit at this point. But like, I think that eventually someone buys Steam. Someone eventually buys Valve. And it's not because of any kind of financial problem that they're in, that they're like, oh no, we can't afford to do this anymore. It's because the people that run Valve will eventually get really fucking old and go like, I don't want to come to work anymore. But this company has to be run somehow. Like someone needs to run it. And so we need to sell it to someone who can run it. And then I will live in New Zealand I will buy all of New Zealand or whatever it is. Right. I think that's just a natural thing. Like, and yeah, sure, maybe there's an employee group that rises up and they buy Valve and it keeps going the same way it has been, and whatever, like, yes, that's certainly an option. But my point is not how it is sold. My point is that eventually someone different will own Valve. That's not, like, I don't mean to be grim about it, but like the people that own it now will not live forever. None of us will. Maybe Gabe Newell. Perhaps he has figured it out. A knife, some kind of knife ritual. And so, but that's you get to a point where some people are just like, okay, yeah, I'm good. I need this amount of money to make sure that the rest of my life is comfortable. And so we need to sell it for this amount. And I need to make sure whatever it is. And then we move forward. And I think that's a totally natural and normal thing to occur. So the idea that like maybe some of these independent outlets kind of eventually get bought by a web publishing company and go on the ride all over again, sure. There's no reason to believe it would never happen. But we'll see. I mean, like fucking there are a lot of reasons to sell a thing. And not all of them are good, and not all of them are beneficial for the brand or whatever. Last time I was involved when we sold to CBS, it was because the thing wasn't going to exist otherwise. I look back on that now and wonder, maybe that was actually the right answer, was that maybe this thing shouldn't exist anymore. Well, we did good work in the following years, but it was at a much greater cost, I think, to the sanity of those doing it. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's my long-winded way of saying it's really fucking weird out there. You know, like think about, when game trailers sold to Viacom is a company that has said multiple times, Viacom has said, oh, we don't give a fuck about a video game website. Let alone three of them? Last time we just had game trailers and that was easy to fucking cut loose. But you have how many? I guess let's find. You got any rubes we can sell these to? Yeah, I got just the guy. You'll love him. Rooster Teeth, right? Like they're owned by AT&T. Or they're owned by Warner Brothers, right? The company that's been trying to sell everything off forever. Or what did they? I don't know who owns them, but like, you know, at some point you go like, oh yeah, I guess this is the right time to sell a thing and move on or whatever, right? It's the reasons to sell a thing, there are a lot of them, and they aren't always negative reflections of the people. They certainly are, I would say, barely ever negative reflections on the people who actually make the fucking content. But I think there are a lot of reasons to sell a thing, which is why, you know, if you're interested in purchasing the Jeff Gerstmann show, but yeah, you know, congratulations, Darren Mooney, Sebastian Ruiz, Jesse Galena, Matt Laughlin, Will Cruz, and Amy Campbell are the rest of the Escapist staff members that publicly noted that they were out, at least according to this Video Games Chronicle recap of the situation. And they're looking to start something new, Second Wind. So good on them. Good on them. I think that's definitely the move right now if you can pull it off. That's a large number of people. It's a large number of people to support on an independent operation. I'll say that. So best of luck to them. It looks like they'll be launching formally tomorrow. So, you know, give that a look. As well as that, what is it? Is it Aftermath? Aftermath.site launched today. So good week, big week for new media operations. That Aftermath logo is real good. It's a real good logo. It's a quality logo. I need a logo. The fuck am I doing? We need to be doing t-shirts. I need to find the. All right. Yes. Looks like we have the Dr. Dre running away from fire picture over in the live programming channel on Discord. So fantastic. There's this. I need to now that I shouldn't even say it because it's going to jinx it. Well, like, yeah, you know, as things settle here, I can finally kind of pick up a conversation about merchandise I've been meaning to have. I got an email introduction to someone that I got to pick up and get back to, and I'm waiting for a response from a couple of guests for Game Boys to Men, and a lot of stuff. Having a kid is very disruptive to a lot of things in this schedule stuff, and then when there's weird health stuff on top of that, it gets whatever. I'm thankful to be able to take care of that business and not like have to worry about that stuff too. So thanks to everyone. It's been a rotten few weeks. But we're getting through it. It's that downside of working alone. There's no one else to host the Jeff Gerstmann show. But I don't know. I love working alone, or at least doing the stuff that I'm doing. It's been fucking super fun. Anyway, that's it for news. Looks like Ubisoft did some layoffs in Montreal, which I suppose is news. I hate that that's there's been so much of it. 124 positions, mainly in Canada. Over the past few months, every team within Ubisoft has been exploring ways to streamline our operations and enhance our collective efficiency so that we are better positioned for success in the long term. We are reorganizing our Canadian studios' general and administrative functions and reducing headcount in Hybrid, our VFX studio based in Montreal, and in our global IT team. Yeah, I mean, Ubisoft has been in a weird place for a good long time, so I guess that's not a huge surprise. Will Skull and Bones ever ship? Are we taking bets on that again yet? Is that a thing? But I don't know. Why don't we get into some emails? Podcast@guard.bike is the email address. You can send in an email and hey, maybe we'll read it on the show. Where did I put those? Where did those emails end up? Okay. Let me filter by this and by that. And by this. Jeremy from Auburn Hills writes in and says, on this week's podcast, you talked about the idea of Nintendo throwing Smash out the window and doing something completely new for a sequel. In the NES days, that was a frequent occurrence with games like Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link, or Super Mario Bros. 2. If you could pick a modern studio to old school sequelize their property and reinvent the wheel, so to speak, which game and studio would you choose and why? Oh, man. StarCraft Ghost was going to kind of be one of those, and I think that something like that could be interesting. I think less so now. It's been a long time. People don't care about StarCraft the same way they used to, so I guess maybe not. Smash TV dating sim, something like that would be nice. But yeah, I think the opportunity but like we see that some brands, remember when Ubisoft was doing 5 times more Tom Clancy games than they were doing now, and it was like, now we've got a fucking Ace Combat ripoff, and we've got a weird kind of RTS sort of thing. Remember Ruse and Hawks and all the big stuff. I think a Pokemon RTS would be interesting. Pokemon, I mean, there are a bunch of other weird Pokemon games. There's Pokemon Snap. There's a lot there. And I think what I was saying with Smash, the idea of what if they made a game and called it Super Smash Brothers 2 would be like, what if they made a dramatically different type of fighting game than the platform thing they've been doing now? How cool could that be? But Mortal Kombat has Mortal Kombat Mythologies. They toyed around with that sort of stuff for a little bit. That you could do, like there'd probably be room for, but I don't know if it'd be interesting. I don't know if it'd actually be good, but you could take you could turn Assassin's Creed into some kind of 4X thing. Probably. Or just an RTS or whatever, but there's a lot of little I don't just weird. That feels like such a nonsense concept nowadays because everything is so locked in. You know, so many franchises are so locked into doing the thing that they do, and how much or how little they change from game to game is sort of the thing, right? But I think, you know, a lot of it depends on like the in-world concepts of like you know, the thing about the whole base building and maintaining and raiding stuff from Metal Gear's online stuff of like stealing people's nukes or disarming nukes or whatever it was. Like, that's a cool concept. That if you fleshed that out into something more like a full game, as opposed to an online mode in a totally different game, I think that could be fucking rad. But yeah, I'm a little, you know, there's the obvious answers where you just take a thing and turn it into a mascot kart racer, and you're like, all right, what if Ratchet and Clank was a kart racing game? But instead of carts, you're on magnet boots, and it's a racing, you know, like whatever. You know, the change that the Syndicate went through, and that's a weird one because there's so many years in between, right? Where they went from it being a real-time strategy game to being a first-person shooter. I think it's more interesting in the context of like a modern thing that they are still actively working on, and they're just like, it's not like a reboot where they change it dramatically. It's like, yeah, this year you know, what if the Syndicate first person shooter to come out like a year later, you know? Or what if they're like, hey man, we made Crusader No Remorse and No Regret, and now we're making another Crusader game, but now it's like a weird base building game where you are training the evil red soldiers and sending them out to crush humanity or whatever. Yeah, Like a Dragon, the Yakuza stuff was really fascinating. That's a really good one. Spring Break My Heart in chat mentions that. And so yeah, but I'm trying to think like if there's any other like big. I think it would be fun to see another Mortal Kombat game that was not a fighting game. I think that would be fun. I think it would be fun to see more wrestling games that are not wrestling games. Car Combat, for example. Just off the head. Just like there should be an AEW Car Combat game. God, that'd be terrible. When they made that, when NetherRealm made that game, right? There was a mobile WWE fighting game, where they made these over the top versions of wrestlers, and it was like, you know, wearing big fur skins and all that, you know, WWE Immortals, I want to say it was called. And that was really cool. And I wish that they'd fleshed that out into a full-on fighting game. I think if they took wrestlers and put them and made a fighting game that had wrestlers in it and kind of had wrestling moves in it, but was really just a fucking good-ass fighting game with anime versions of wrestlers in it, I think that'd be fucking badass. They should do that. They should do that. Cincinnati Eric writes in and asks, are we on our way to a video game crash? I was thinking today while listening to the news about the Bungie layoffs and layoffs across the entire industry, and just how dismal it seems for the working folks. Yes, this year has been phenomenal for the consumers to a degree and fans of video games, but with every news story of layoffs, downsizing, etc., I can't help but wonder if the industry is sustainable. Companies keep pushing for bigger, better, brighter, huger budgeted games, but at what point does that give? I am naive to economics, but I worry if the industry itself is even healthy, despite masterpieces being released. Is there any sign of a collapse, crash, or bubble pop, or are my concerns unwarranted? So I think right now we're in a situation where I might call this a correction or something, but that's a really cold way of putting it, but I think that right now what we're seeing is the aftermath of pandemic spending. And that's, you know, that's something that's not just that's not something that's just happening in video games, but I'm not enough of I'm also pretty naive to economics myself. I just know what I have faced firsthand over the years, right? So I guess like what we're seeing is there was a lot of pandemic spending happening. There were a lot more people at home. We've talked about that, where like time spent in video games went up over that. And so that led to a lot of spending and growth and all this other stuff that was not sustainable. And so you have a lot of bets that were placed over the last few years that in some ways are just now paying off because these games are shipping, right? And so we're finally having all these games that got delayed and everything, like all as development ramped up on working from home and everything. And you had a lot of games that were launching fucked up. Whatever. We had some games, you know, Mortal Kombat launched in a relatively fucked up state this year. Call of Duty, I currently can't play it. That Star Wars Jedi Survivor was a fucking mess. But I guess what I would say is I don't think that, you know, like when you talk about bigger, brighter, huger budgeted games, like the video game industry is pretty diverse in terms of budgets and size and scope and everything else, right? When we include mobile into that number. So no, will games crash in the sense that they did in 83? No, I think the industry is too big and too weird to quote unquote crash. But do we see a change in the types of games being made, and do we see a change in the big single player, super high budget thing? You know, maybe. But like by and large, those games get that too big to fail thing going for them, and they end up making money. You know, like they're not the big weird bets, the big Sony first party Spider-Man 2s of the world, like the Gods of Wars, the Lasts of Us. They don't make a ton of them, and the rest of the industry does not make a ton of them either. And so those are the games when I think about bigger budgets and bigger and crazier and bigger, you know, like I start to think down that road. And down that road, I think like Sony has carved out its niche for that stuff pretty well. And that stuff will probably do okay. Will it do as well as they need it to or want it to? I don't know that I'm not even sure that it ever has. Maybe it is now. You know, Spider-Man 2 sold gangbusters. But the thing you always used to hear back in the PlayStation 3 days is, you know, you'd have like an Uncharted come out or something like that. And the story I would always hear was, oh yeah, I mean, it's a great game. Critically, it's fucking massive. Like, it's selling fine, but it's not doing, you know, because it's exclusive to one platform or whatever whatever the reasoning is, it's not really doing the types of numbers that they need it to do for the budgets of these games and where the budgets continue to go as they go up and up and up as the cost to develop a game goes up, you know? And so I wonder on that level, like would those be the first games to crack because those are the games that don't have long tail revenue, as gross as it is. You know, when you buy Spider-Man 2, you might buy a season pass for some DLC or something, right? And that's what, another $20, and then you're in and out. Even if they did some cosmetics, how much would they really do for it, you know? Compare that to a Fortnite where they're like, hey man, every 3 months we've got fucking another ridiculous pop culture crossover skin for you to be an idiot and buy. Call of Duty is running down that road as fast as they possibly can. Like, it was something where they would be like, oh, we'll do like one guest character here. We'll do, oh, here's John McClane. Here's Snoop Dogg. This time they're like, fuck it, man. Here's 21 Savage. Here's fucking Bruce Campbell. Here's Nicki Minaj. Here's, you know, like they've stepped it up. Spawn. Yeah, Benny Hill is in it now. Triple H. The boat from Jaws for the NES is showing up in season 7. We're very excited about that. Yes, Lara Croft is in the game. So like they're everyone saw that. Everyone saw like the Fortnite money and on skins. But Call of Duty was finally the franchise that was also big enough that was able to finally lean into it. And they were willing to lean into it, I guess. I don't know. It seemed like they were always timid, or they could have done this a long time ago. I don't think people would have cared. Maybe there'd be some people who were like, oh, this isn't real combat. I'm just modern warfare. I don't know. There's probably someone complaining about Nicki Minaj somewhere for what I'm sure are some very good faith reasons. Fucking people. But yeah, I look at that stuff. People are pissed about Mortal Kombat because of the way the skins are being sold, the cost of the skins and everything. But I look at I feel like the people complaining about the cost of things in Mortal Kombat are maybe out of touch with how much skins cost in other modern games now. I'm not saying that makes it right, but I am saying that I feel like there's some pretty good data out there by now that says this is the price people will pay for a really good skin or a guest character skin or whatever, like their Jean-Claude Van Damme stuff. The territory they have traversed into is a seasonal fatality. They're selling a Halloween themed fatality right now. And that's interesting. It's a Halloween themed fatality. It puts a pumpkin on the head. You can equip it to any character. And it's very easy to do. And yeah, it's a Halloween themed fatality. It looks like if you go look at the character configuration stuff, there's a seasonal fatality thing. They call it seasonal fatality. It seems like a thing where, you can only have one seasonal fatality equipped to a character at a time, is my guess on how that will work. I don't know for sure. And yeah, it was like $12. Is that how much it was? That's relatively uncharted territory. Like, how much should you charge for a fatality? And while we could make the argument that you shouldn't, and people are like going crazy, like $12, well, like skins are like what, 20? Like a big, quote unquote premium skin in a game these days is like $20 or something, right? We're not talking about microtransactions anymore. We're talking about a world where Nicki Minaj costs more than most indie games. And the market is, again, they're not making these numbers up. This is what people will spend. Otherwise, it would be lower, because we've had enough years in this business of selling skins and everything to where clearly the answer is like, oh, this is the right price for skins because we have enough years of research on this that we know if we have the right pop culture tie-in, the right this, the right that, then, we think that this is going to be the right number for these skins. And you can't charge that for everything, right? If you're like, hey man, it's Scorpion, but he's magenta. That's not, that's not $20, but they don't try to charge $20 for that. We're talking about, hey man, it's Lara Croft. Hey man, it's fucking, how much the characters cost for Mortal Kombat, because you're going to get Omni-Man pretty soon here. I don't know. The cost on the fatality doesn't, conceptually doesn't really bother me, because when you look at the pricing on everything else out there, when we're looking at like packs of like gun skins in Call of Duty, or how much a skin costs in Fortnite, or like, hey, your back bling is this, or fucking it's a trophy that attaches to your horse in Diablo 4, and like some of the other types of transactions that are already out there on the market. Like I look at it and go like, yeah, this fits right in with that sort of stuff. It's not like there's a massive shortage of finishers in that game, and also it's like a dumb generic Halloween themed fatality. It's goofy, it's kind of whatever. I feel like all of the seasonal stuff that all these games do, when it's like, we made a pumpkin headed guy for Call of Duty, like it always looks like shit. It's always dumb. The pumpkin fatality in Mortal Kombat is not the game's best fatality, you know? And so I don't, yeah, I don't. The ships have sailed on this sort of stuff, right? I think but whatever. If you don't play games that are heavily, into the whole cosmetics thing, you just might not know that. And so maybe that's why people are shocked by the fatality and its pricing and everything else. I just kind of look at it and go like, yeah, man, have you seen what they fucking charge for generic Overwatch 2 skins these days? Have you seen, how much some of this stuff goes for elsewhere? Like the way they're charging, did you see how much cat ears cost for Halo Infinite? Like it's not, none of this stuff seems out of whack. You could argue that like we have strayed too far from the light and the entire industry needs to be burned alive. Like if you want to take that position, fine. I don't. But yeah, I don't know. There are plenty of full-priced video games that are also selling a bunch of skins. It's kind of, yeah, I don't know. It feels a little late to get outraged about this stuff, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I hear you, I get it. It sucks. If they were charging for, well, they did. I mean, they kind of did, right? I mean, was it Mortal Kombat 9? Because they did classic. I thought the classic skins for like Scorpion and Sub-Zero in MK9 came with their classic fatalities. And so it was like a case where like, oh, if you buy this classic Scorpion skin, and some of them, yes, some of them got lumped in with the DLC characters. Okay. And those came with fatality. Yeah, I don't know. Shit has been weird for a while. I think when Mortal Kombat started selling easy fatality tokens, that was for me like, okay, gloves are off. Like that's when they crossed a line for me, when they're like, what if we sold you consumable tokens you could use so that you don't have to learn how to do fatalities? That's some true fucking shit for some rubes out there. You got to be real fucking dumb to be buying those. Just pause the game and read the screen. It's right there. Yeah, I don't know. It's not great. Jeff from Toronto writes in. We were talking last week about the Xbox peripheral situation where they are going to be locking out unauthorized Xbox peripherals, which includes a lot of stuff that people use for accessibility and fight sticks and so on and so forth. Jeff writes in and says, I am a victim of their decision as someone who recently purchased an XB Brooks Wingman 2. I bought it primarily because I didn't have an Xbox fight stick, nor did I want to spend $200 Canadian to purchase a new one. I had a perfectly good Mad Catz fight stick that I bought for my PS4 a few years ago, and with the Brooks Wingman, it was able to breathe new life into the fight stick, plus save me a good amount of cash. I wanted to do my fighting games on the Xbox, which I enjoy most of my gaming experiences on, but with decisions like this, I may need to shift back to Sony. I recently purchased a PS5, and this fight stick will work just fine there, so if anything, I'm just shifting my fighting game dollars back to Sony. I wanted to stay, but they made my decision for me. And more frustratingly, I do most of my fighting game playing offline. I can understand if they made the decision to curb issues or advantages in online play, but I'm primarily offline. At the same time, I understand the Venn diagram that I'm in. The center is quite small, plays fighting games with a fight stick, with a Brooks Wingman converter, and I play offline. But hey, I sincerely hope they change their mind on this. Otherwise, the Brooks Wingman will become nothing but a doorstop or something I chuck at the TV when I get frustrated. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Also, it sounds like you're ready to use it on your PlayStation 5, so I don't know about the doorstop thing, but Frustrating. That continues to be frustrating. I will say that you are already in the minority of people playing fighting games on an Xbox, as that's my understanding, especially competitively, especially with a fight stick, I'm gonna guess. Because it feels like that ship has kind of sailed, and that the people that are, I don't know, serious about fighting games and playing them competitively and so on and so forth, they are by and large choosing PlayStation. I'm at a point where I play most of my stuff on PC just because it looks a little better and I'm sitting in front of it. I don't know. This monitor is very low latency. And when the games are good on PC, it's fucking cool, man. It's been cool to see more and more fighting games on PC. Yeah. Yes, the Xbox update was that they said that anything that was plugged into their accessibility adapter will work. So as long as you're plugged into their hub thing that they sold, that stuff's not going to get locked out, I guess. So there is that. But if you have a solution that does not include that device, then you're kind of assed out. Bard from Norway writes in, it says, I recently tried Linger in Shadows for PlayStation 3 again, and it has trophies referencing different demo scene groups. That's fucking cool. Do you have any experience in who these or any demo groups are and what relevance they have in the gaming industry? Well, I mean, the short, I would have to go refresh myself on the exact history of this stuff, but demo scene groups are, by and large, I think of them as people working on the Amiga, the Commodore 64, and they're making intros to cracked games, cracktros, if you will. And so they're putting together music and cool scrolling text and ridiculous fonts and just making these graphical little intros. People still do make demos. Excuse me. Demos for demos' sake certainly does exist. That's the whole demo scene thing, is they just kind of get together and just make some fucking cool fucking art and then throw in a bunch of greets to other scene groups and so on and so forth. I think DICE was originally born out of the demo scene, the Battlefield developers. Or the pinball, the pinball extremes, what is it? Pinball fantasies, pinball dreams for the Amiga, those pinball games that DICE made back before they became the Battlefield people. Is this Remedy? Okay, yeah, it would make sense. It would make sense that Remedy has some demo scene roots. It would make sense that IO Interactive has some demo scene roots for sure. But yeah, that's it was just kind of like, here's like some cool stuff you can make. They weren't necessarily interactive per se. Just little cool audio visual demos, really. And a lot of them, existed at the front of cracked games. Red Warrior says, when I was at Beam Software, one of the guys who joined in that time was a Mega Drive Genesis programmer who was an Amiga demo and wares guy. Not unusual. Yeah, of course. Yeah, totally. Especially if you're doing Mega Drive stuff. I mean, I feel like the something about the Amiga, it's like same process, same CPU or whatever. Right? But yeah, a lot of European action, for lack of a better word, on the demo scene stuff. And I don't know. I have like a bunch of fucking mods, not mods in the game mods sense, but mods in the sound module, 4-channel audio little song thing, meds, S3Ms, XMs, whatever you want to, whatever else you want to call them, all the file formats there, tracker music. That was usually the stuff that made its way into demos. I I have one of those that is someone kind of rapping very crudely and then kind of sending shit to other demo scene groups in the rap, and I think that's fucking fantastic. It's fucking god awful. And somewhat racist. Anyway, moving on. Daddy Warbucks from Oregon writes in and says, I had a good time with Modern Warfare 2. It was the first Call of Duty I've purchased since Black Ops 3. I enjoyed the campaign and played the multiplayer and a shitload for the first 2 months it was out, and then dropped off entirely. I wasn't interested in the new Call of Duty until they announced it was all the original Modern Warfare 2 maps. I absolutely love that game and was ready to waste $70 to be able to play full-scale matches on those maps again. But after hearing how garbage and lazy the campaign is this year, I've decided it's not worth it. I wonder if there are many other people who feel the same. People always joke that the campaign doesn't matter in Call of Duty, but for me, it's definitely a part of what justifies the price tag. $70 just for the multiplayer is a huge rip, especially considering it's just last year's game on new maps with sweaty movement mechanics. Yeah. I'm sure that there's got to be documentaries and stuff about the demo scene. I'm sure there's I don't know how high budget they are, but I'm sure that there's been my advice, if you're curious about the demo scene and the culture around it, is to just go look for some demos and watch them. There's a bunch of captures of them on YouTube if you just want to do it the easy way. You can download them and emulate them as well in a lot of cases, though a lot of demos push a lot of really weird hardware in really weird directions, and so sometimes they don't always emulate well. There are definitely some demos that are like, if your emulator can run this demo, then it's a good fucking emulator. Anyway, the Call of Duty stuff, yeah, I mean, classically, I think if you go look at the trophy percentages, and they'll be awkward this year because of the last two games being combined, like the percentages will be a little strange because it'll be lumping together everyone who downloaded Warzone for free or played Modern Warfare 2 and paid or whatever, like all of that stuff will be, so the numbers will look even lower. But usually you could go look at like the percentage of unlock for like completing the campaign in that year's Call of Duty or something, and it was always some intensely low number. Or even just like find the trophy, find the thing for like the very first. There's a trophy, and this is an optional one because you have to kill a set number of people, but it didn't seem difficult. But there is a trophy in the Modern Warfare 3 campaign. It's the only one that I have, and it is called Death Row. Kill 12 enemies while descending in the panopticon in Operation 627. So like in the first mission, first thing you do gameplay wise, you can shoot these 12 people and get an achievement for it. When I got it, it was like 0.1% on Steam. It became my rarest achievement in the little rarest achievement showcase. Now it's not completely pure numbers because they've combined Call of Duty. You're also including everyone who bought Modern Warfare 2 and everyone who downloaded Warzone. And so potentially people who don't even have access to the thing that I'm playing yet or whatever. So it's hard to look at that number right now with any level of accuracy. But you go back, you look at the last few years of Call of Duty and start to look at achievement data, and you can start to get a good idea of how many people actually play the campaign. It's really low. It's really low. That they just get it and play the multiplayer and never even touch the campaign. And so that's always been the game that Activision has been trying to play, or the solution, the thing they've been trying to solve, right? Is like, man, they spend a lot of money making these bespoke single player campaign levels that never show up anywhere else ever again. And they sure spent a lot of time on making cool visual effects for this bomb going off and recording all this VO and doing, there's a ton of money that goes into making a traditional Call of Duty campaign. And the thing that they used to get out of it was always trailers, They're like, you needed to have cool set piece, bespoke, weird shit for a trailer. And when your game is just, go look at trailers for PUBG. I have not done this, but I feel like it's a pretty safe thing to say If you go look at trailers for PUBG, they're not, they're probably not super exciting by comparison. So when you have that story, when you have those characters and they're talking and they're like, we've got to fucking stop, they're gonna blow this shit up, and then they're like, not on my watch, and then they fucking shoot a bunch of guns, and then there's a nuclear explosion and a guy walking away from it, and then Dr. Dre is running away from fire, and it says pre-order now to get Dr. Dre Fire Edition. You get fucking pumped. You go, yes, where do I fucking stick the fucking jam this credit card into this fucking computer. Give me Dr. Dre. We are leaving. Just like some kind of dialogue, crazy shit. And if you don't have a campaign, you don't get any of that. And so the trailer, the ability to market the game is reduced. And you've got to figure out how to promote the game to people. And so I wonder if at some point, how much of the cost of the campaign do they look at as marketing fees, as like we spent this much money on the campaign, and this percentage of it we count as creating assets for marketing or whatever. I wonder if they ever think about it that way, or not. Because that's for a big mainstream game like that, you can't really show features. Like, yeah, Fortnite does trailers and stuff, but it's like, and I wonder, how much of because Fortnite has storylines. Fortnite tries to have big in-game events and whatever, and they try to, here's The Rock showing up and being like, fucking drink a Zoa and run from the storm, or I'm the foundation, whatever the fuck he was. Enjoy your gaming. We are leaving. And like, how much of that is so that they can have cool shit for trailers also? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I don't imagine there are a ton of people who are like, ugh, the Call of Duty campaign is bad this year, I'm not buying it. But there's certainly, there are some people that just enjoy a good, fast-paced, big, dumb, loud action movie kind of thing. Like, that has been the draw for me for the Call of Duty campaigns for a while. It just needs to have something going for it, and that's the problem with this year, is the way they're pulling those things together. Like, it hasn't even had really big, good moments, honestly, so far. But yeah, I'm sure that Daddy Warbucks here is not alone, but that has to be a pretty small number of people who are just like, ugh, the campaign's bad, I'm not going to get it. But I understand, yeah, totally. Like, if that's a major part of the game, because like I have to go in, there's always like the 3 pillars of Call of Duty, right? It's campaign, it's competitive multiplayer, and it's a third thing, which is zombies or whatever co-op mode, spec ops. Nowadays that's murkier because Warzone is a thing, and there's just the selling point for Call of Duty has gotten strange, right? This mythical 4th pillar. But like, I never cared about the zombie mode. I never have. And the co-op modes they've often had have a lot of times been really underwhelming. And so you have this situation, it makes the games really hard to review, because you would be reviewing 3 dramatically different things of like, okay, the campaign is this, the competitive multiplayer is this, and then there's this mode where you fight aliens? Like, what? Like, storyline has no tie into the campaign. It's just like, I don't know, there are fucking aliens because the other studio does zombies, so we thought we would do aliens. Okay, fucking what? And so it was always really weird to review it, because you'd be like, well, I think the campaign is really good this year. I think the competitive multiplayer is some of the best they've ever done. And then you've got this other mode that is funky and kind of busted, and so the review scores were always really hard to, it's like, how do you average those 3 things out across a game, and blah, blah, blah. It's always really weird. Anyway. Let's see. Auden from Norway writes in and says, I wanted to pose a question to you as a fellow believer in that 1998 was the best year of video games. I was around back then as well and played more Quake than was probably healthy for my career, yet on this matter, we don't see eye to eye. I ask you this, why do you want a faster cadence in delivery of more maps for first-person shooters? I'm trying to understand the mindset that doesn't want to master existing maps and instead wants new maps all the time. Personally, I do not enjoy getting a new map and being lost for months whenever it comes up, and then never getting comfortable enough by the time another shows up. Is this my old man give me Q3 DM6 all day brain? Or did I just never play Call of Duty? Well, none of these maps are Q3 DM6 or 17. For starters, it's like the quality of maps is a little different now. But even back then, that was the beauty of mods. That was the beauty of players constantly making new maps and constantly making new things for the game. I would be happy, by and large, at least back then, Quake 2 days, let's say. And Quake 3, I like some of the maps in Quake 3 quite a bit. But like Quake 2, Quake 1. If you had put me on a server and said you will never see the same map twice, I would have been totally okay with that. Because for me, like, part of it is the exploration. Part of it is like seeing it for the first time, going like, oh, wow. Like, I am not ever going to be a player who is going to learn a route on a map. You know, I'm not going to be out here like Kill Creek running my loops and knowing, like, if I get here just now, I know the rocket launcher respawns here. I'm not going to exhibit that type of map control ever in my life. I am not Fatality out here ripping off my shirt and knowing when the quad respawns. And so maybe it's partially just a skill thing of just like, well, because I'm never going to be that player. I don't ever want to memorize a map that well. I don't need to know a map that well. I want to just be in the moment. What's around this corner? What's here? I want to be surprised. I want to be like, oh shit. Oh, there's a guy here. Oh fuck, there's this. You know, I am totally happy being like, having like the environment be part of the randomness, you know, the what the fuck's going on. And I always liked, you know, like, oh man, sometimes there's some and I think it's part of why I'm drawn to Trackmania, right? Is because that is a scenario where you could see a map and never see it again, you know? But you do end up getting on these servers and you see loops of maps and, you know, they update and they change and whatever, but I always like seeing new stuff. And so that's never gone away. And so I just want a wider, I get bored of a lot of the maps in a Call of Duty game. You get to a point where you're just like, ugh, this map's in the rotation and I know it's going to come up sooner or later. And I'm tired of fucking crouching on this rooftop. I'm tired of like this being the strategy for this map. And I just don't like, or if it's not me, it's someone else doing it. And that's whatever. It's not fun to fight against the guy crouching on the rooftop. So fuck this map with this rooftop. And so you want to see something new. You just want something nice and flashy. Something that you don't know and the other players don't know either, I think is handy and fun as well. I'm just like, okay, we're kind of all on equal footing and, you know, no one's found the exact spot that they think they can dominate in. And, you know, it hasn't become a game of like, we've got to flush them out of this spot because it's the good spot. I think Call of Duty has been pretty good recently about not necessarily having maps quite like that. But back in years past, it was definitely like, oh, they got on top of this rooftop or they got here and they've got people stationed in ways that are preventing people from getting to that guy, so he's able to do this and that. You know, you end up in some weird situations there. But I like new shit. I like new shit of like wildly varying quality. That was always the fun about seeing so many user created maps on Quake servers is like some of them were terrible. But you could still have fun on them. They're like, this is a garbage, and also, I wasn't really playing team games then, so it wasn't like it was terrible in an unbalanced way. It was just terrible, and like, this is laid out, this is gross. Like this, everyone is having a bad time jumping up this ladder. Everyone's having there's just a lot of funky things here that are not fun to engage with, but it was fun to play on exactly once. And I don't know, I always liked seeing a lot of weird custom map stuff, and that's long gone now, but it was always cool. Paul in DC writes in and says, you mentioned that the xCloud wait times can be as high as 10 minutes. That's right. Someone wrote in to say that xCloud wait times were getting crazy. Counter-Strike 2 added workshop map support recently. Not for their official servers, but for, I guess, community servers. So I don't know if that's been flooded full of new maps or whatever. But anyway, xCloud wait times can be as high as 10 minutes. In my experience, this tends to be on Tuesday afternoons. Microsoft Rewards adds their weekly quests on Tuesdays around 1 p.m. Eastern. These quests are typically of two types: a big quest that tracks specific stats in a game, and a small quest that simply requires you to play a certain game. This week's weekly quests: Candy Crush 2, collect 400 candy, and Back 4 Blood, play it. The play quests are almost always available to complete using the xCloud feature of Game Pass Ultimate. All you have to do to complete the quest is launch the game via xCloud and wait for the quest to pop. Hopefully that clarifies why the xCloud waits are long. I don't know that it does. I mean, I'm sure for that, what subset of people, I mean, how do that many people care about Microsoft Rewards? I have never cashed in a reward point, and I've never gone too far out of my way to get one. I have, it's totaling up here. Windows 11 will tell you your current reward point total on the start menu, because you need to know. I have 64,778 reward points. I don't know if that's a lot or not. Some people in the chat are saying they do this exact thing to get the points or whatever. So yeah, I know some people pay for their Game Pass with their rewards points and whatever else. So there is some value there. But if that can't be causing massive cloud time waits, because I mean, sure, they're spinning up an instance to launch a game long enough to get the quest and then probably shutting it down immediately. I would think that would not, cause these long wait times across the week. Maybe that would cause them Tuesdays in the afternoon for the people that are dying to get them immediately. But I don't know. Maybe. I'll keep tabs on it. Mason in Virginia asks, is the Nintendo 64 the most popular console with the worst fighting games? Yeah, it might be. It might be. There's some. Yes, Fighter's Destiny was all right. But it had that shitty version of MK4. It had that shitty version of Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Super Smash Bros. I mean, it's not even a fighting game. Biofreaks, fucking War Gods. Wait, did War Gods come out? Yeah, War Gods came out on the N64, right? Biofreaks, Jesus. There was a Clay Fighter, right? That's the expensive one. Sculptor's Cut, yeah. Clay Fighter 63 1/3. Congratulations to Clay Fighter for stealing the Naked Gun joke. Rakuga Kids is kind of cool. Yeah, so someone in chat reminding me of that. Yeah, I played a fair amount of Killer Instinct Gold when it came out. I mean, that was like a close to launch game. That was actually the game that kind of got me a little bit into Killer Instinct. But yeah. Anonymous in Audio writes, this is an interesting one. I read this last night. I was like, oh. Anonymous emailer writes in and says, I've directed audio at mid-sized studios for about 10 years and thought I could add some color to the latest voiceover drama. So if you're not familiar, we were talking about The Finals last week, and they have used some AI voices for some of their audio. And then when confronted about it, they were like, oh, it's not the timetable. You know, they kind of justified it as opposed to saying, yeah, it's because the game's not done and we're definitely not going to do that in the full game. Anyway, so this person has been in the audio games business for a decade. VO artists are not the problem. Copy is the problem. Every place I've worked, locking copy is like pulling teeth. Then you discover after traveling 2 time zones to record the entirety of a game's dialogue that the script was sloppily knifed in a meeting you've never heard of, let alone gotten invited to, because of urgent new requirements from parties up and down the chain of command. Effort is wasted, feelings are hurt, and work is lost. Three things that companies hate. It's true that text-to-speech presents itself as a technological solution to this problem. What isn't true is that anyone actually wants to cut voiceover artists out of the equation. They are among the most prompt, professional, and genuinely creative people in games. Everyone, from producers to engineers, clambers to get into the recording sessions simply because watching your ideas come to life in the vocal booth is some of the most fun you can have in this industry. But if the copy changes, and the vast constellation of resources required to get those lines back in the can almost never aligns again. I think it's patronizing to voice actors, almost none of whom make all or even most of their income from saying lines for money, to act like this is a labor issue and not an organizational one. Rather than scapegoating text-to-speech, which is plainly awful anyway, everyone involved with planning needs to force the uncomfortable conversation of locking the goddamn script and keeping it that way. Disorganized, conflict-averse people are at the root of this issue, and unfortunately, I don't see them changing anytime soon. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting insight into that for sure. And yeah, I mean, everything I've heard from people, you know, like there's been people in my line of work that have gotten into writing games, and that has been definitely the thing I've heard most is the script getting fucking butchered and changed. And oh, we cut that level, so all the story that goes with it now has to be crammed in somewhere else. And oh, we need to re-record this because this story beat changed and we didn't tell anybody. And like a lot of it sounds like a mess. It is among the reasons why I feel like it's a miracle that any game ever ships. You know what I mean? It's like, God dang. Because it's always crazy. Then we can take one or two more here. Here's another anonymous email. I'm playing through Alan Wake 2 right now, and I'm having this isn't necessarily anonymous for like, hey, I've got a bunch of scuttlebutt or dirt or whatever. It's anonymous because this person works in games and doesn't want to, you know, like publicly talk shit about a game. This is hardly talking shit about a game. Anyway. But I get it. I'm playing through Alan Wake 2 right now and I'm having a blast with it. This comes as a surprise because I've given the original Alan Wake a try on 2 separate occasions, once upon original release and once earlier this year with the remastered version, and both times I hated it. Chatting with friends, it seems like I'm not the only one having this experience, which leads me to ask, in your experience, has there ever been a game so vastly different in quality between sequels as Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2? Someone mentioned Assassin's Creed 2 to Assassin's Creed 3 being a sharp decline in quality, but I don't think the gulf is nearly as deep as how much worse Alan Wake is compared to Alan Wake 2. I think Assassin's Creed 2 to 3 is actually well, I guess it wouldn't be 2 to 3, it would be like what, Brotherhood to 3. Right? 1 to 2 is an interesting, like, if we're just accepting differences in quality, I think the level of quality from Assassin's Creed 1 to 2 is actually pretty amazing. Okay, Chrononauts, okay, it was 2, then Brotherhood, then Revelations, then 3. So I think if we take that into account, then maybe that's weird, because 2 is awesome, Brotherhood is the best game they've ever made, Revelations was fucking super disappointing, and 3 sucks. So with Revelations being kind of fucking bad, I think the problem with Assassin's Creed 3 is a little the gulf is not maybe as direct, because man, fucking Revelation, Jesus Christ, 3 fucking suck. Like, anyone out there defending Assassin's Creed 3 worked on it. You're one of the 9,000 people that worked on that game. I will not accept any other possibility. Ground Flyer in chat says, what about Metal Gear Solid 5 to Metal Gear Survive? I think there's an asterisk next to that. Because of the changes or whatever. Yeah, Payday 2 to 3 is another one that's been in the news lately. As that happen, I imagine we're already at the point with Payday where the player numbers on Payday 2 are far higher than Payday 3. I know they actually did get their patch out, but seems like they blew it. I don't know how they get it back at this point. Is this going to be one of those situations like with, what was that Battle Royale game where they shut down the sequel and said, fuck it, we're going back to doing updates on the first one? Like, is Payday going to end up that way, where they're like, all right, if you bought Payday 3, we're putting all those maps into Payday 2. Oh, man. The culling. Yeah, it was the culling. Some people would say Resident Evil 2 to 3 and then 3 to 4 from the perspective of I feel like there's an undercurrent of people that don't like Resident Evil 3. Which I don't remember that ever being a thing at the time. I remember Resident Evil 3 coming out and people going like, fuck yeah, Resident Evil 3, and being psyched for it, and like maybe it wasn't as groundbreaking as 2 was, and it certainly didn't reinvent things the way 4 does. So in that context, I could see it being a step down, but like, people fucking loved RE3. So the idea that people talk shit about RE3 is weird to me, because people were fucking stoked about that game then. It's no Code Veronica, but what are you going to do? Even I kind of liked Code Veronica, and I fucking hate Resident Evil. Yeah, and also I think that like this emailer asking about the quality of Alan Wake to Alan Wake 2, even that is, I mean, it's obviously, but like, I don't think that that's a widely shared, as much as this person seems to be finding people around them that agree, and I certainly agree. The thing I remember about Alan Wake when it came out is people loving Alan Wake, and me going, shit, I wish I liked Alan Wake, but I don't. But Alan Wake, people fucking loved Alan Wake 1. Like, it was not some, it didn't come out and people were like, this is fucking garbage. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, Mario's, yeah. Jim says, Mario Sunshine to Mario Galaxy. Sure. Yeah. Mario Sunshine is certainly a low point for that franchise. I might say Virtua, there's a lot of cases where we can just look at like, what's the bad game in a franchise? And then you kind of have two options for like the gulf. I would say Virtua Fighter 3 and the games around it. VF2 is incredible. VF4 is fucking awesome. VF3, they tried some shit with stairs and it sucks. Similarly, I might say Tekken 4, where they tried some shit with walls and it sucks. Tekken 3, amazing. Tekken 5, mind-blowing. Tekken 4, no thank you. I love VF4. VF4 might be my favorite Virtua Fighter game. I mean, I think you play 5 now. 5 is certainly a great game as well. But VF4 was the game that made me a Virtua Fighter fan. Like, I played a lot of 1 and 2 and was like, this is fun, but it's $1 to play it. And then when VF4, it also, I think it's circumstantial because I was able to play VF4 in Japanese arcades, and that's where I started getting good at VF, period, let alone VF4. But VF4 made me a fan of the series. And the way the card system worked is you would buy a card and then you would tap it to the arcade cabinet and you would have to pick one character. It forced you to pick a main. And so if you wanted to use your card, you would either have to have one card per character, which is crazy, or you would have to have a main. So I had my Sarah card and I would just tap it and it would pick Sarah and whatever outfit shit I had on. But to customize the outfits, you had to have an app for your phone. And this is pre-iPhone, so this is like the Apply, the whatever Japanese cell phone app standard there was back then, to change the name on your character and change the equipment and stuff. And so I had to have a friend install the app and change my name around and stuff to do that, because I didn't have a I did have a Japanese phone. We bought phones one year. And then we could just rent SIM cards and put them in the phones. And I still have the phone. My daughter was playing with it recently. I was like, oh, where did you find my ill-ass Japanese phone? But it doesn't, it's like super trashy. It's like trashed here. No apps support, no nothing. It was just a phone-ass phone. Because I couldn't read it anyway. But yeah, that was a weird situation. Anyway, Virtua Fighter 4 is a great game. Meow King says Persona 2 to 3. So you're saying Persona 2 is amazing and Persona 3 is garbage, right? Is that the gulf we're assigning here? Is that Persona 2 is a fucking rad game and fuck Persona 3? Is that anyway. Mark writes and says, are there any games or series that you love despite it being a genre that you hate? I can't stand real-time strategy games generally, but I love playing Command and Conquer because of the personality and the batshit craziness of it all. Same with Marvel versus Capcom 2 for fighting games. I mean, if we're counting Alan Wake 2 as a survival horror game, that's becoming one of those, because that's certainly a genre that I don't much care for. There was I'm trying to think if there's a MOBA or any kind of like MOBA adjacent thing that I ever really got into, but not really. There was that Warhammer game they did in beta that was like 3 teams of 3. That was like kind of taking the mechanics from the MMO and turning it into something vaguely MOBA-esque. That was kind of cool. But yeah, Alan Wake 2 is, you know, if we consider that to be a survival horror game, like that's probably one that I would put on that list. Real-time strategy games are kind of, yeah, I mean, like, I'm not, am I an RTS fan? It's a really weird question, because the things that, like, competitive RTS players like are not things I care about. So I like the Command and Conquer games for the same reason. I enjoy playing those campaigns. I enjoy building a bunch of shit and then stomping everyone out, and, you know, like, and I loved StarCraft for the same reason. I played a lot of Total Annihilation. maybe I'm an RTS fan, just not in the same way the competitive fans are. I could not get into Subcom. I tried. That was kind of a little just over the line for me. The Subcom 2 was kind of cool. I can't think of a 4X game that I've ever liked. Yeah, I don't know. I really liked Jagged Alliance back in the day, and that type of turn-based thing was not really my thing then or ever, but I played so much Jagged Alliance 2. Wrath of Heroes, yes. Warhammer Online Wrath of Heroes. That game was not around for long. They were doing betas and stuff like that and then shut it down. That game had something going for it. Yeah, the Red Alert games, those are all cool. Real-time strategy games are cool. I just don't, at some point, they just got too specific in terms of counter units and everything else. And they became, you had to have specific skill sets to enjoy them. And you had to think about the conflicts in much more granular ways than you used to have to. and all of that. I liked XCOM, and I liked XCOM Terror from the Deep. The original XCOM games. Terror from the Deep is weird. But first XCOM, great game. The XCOM reboot, I really liked the first one, and then they made that second one, and I don't know, it launched weird, and then also I think I just kind of hit my limit with that style of game, and I was like, I played a whole lot of the previous XCOM, and maybe I'm okay. Yeah, Terror from the Deep is really fucking hard. It's like the Syndicate DLC, it's not American Nightmare. That'd be very funny. But the Syndicate expansion is really fucking nuts, difficulty-wise, too. Let's see. Let's do two more real quick ones here. Mark from Wayne, Michigan writes in and says, I listened to the podcast and you were talking about what a modern Pitfall game might look like. Given what the gaming landscape is like now, you imagined it would be like Uncharted but worse, which I agree with, but suppose Microsoft went in a different direction and had someone make a Pitfall Metroidvania instead. It wouldn't have to be some big budget thing, but something on the level or quality of Shadow Complex would be very welcome. Imagine Harry gets new whip abilities to swing even faster and longer as he explores a deep and vast cave system. Sure, yeah. He gets a magic whip, then you got the blue whip, and it can attach to the blue grapple points. And now you have Quick Claw with you, and you can push a button and turn into Quick Claw. And Quick Claw, as a lion, can crawl on the ceiling, like all lions do. And you can use that to get over pits. Yeah, that would be good. That could be good conceptually. But I think a good quality Metroidvania with interesting mechanics is always going to be welcome. I think you could definitely do that with the Pitfall IP. Mark also goes on to ask, how come Shadow Complex 2 never got made? Epic has more money than God, right? What gives? Chair, the studio that made Shadow Complex, also made Infinity Blade. And Infinity Blade was huge. And so rather than going and making another Xbox Live game and doing those sorts of numbers and doing that all over again, they made Infinity Blade money. And then on the back of that, Donald Mustard, who was the head of Chair, went on to become the creative director of all of Epic. And so suddenly he was overseeing Fortnite and all of this stuff in the years that followed. And so I think it just got to a point, and they were doing that game with J.J. Abrams for a while. The Spy, not Spyborgs. That's that Capcom game. Fucking Spyborg. Spy something. Spy Jinx. That's what it was. Spy Jinx, there was a phone game. I think, was Spy Jinx the phone game? I remember seeing someone from Epic who had a game, it running on their phone, and that never came to pass either. But yeah, a Fortnite, like all the answers of anything, like what happened to this thing at Epic. The answer is usually Fortnite. The timetable is a little stretched out on that stuff. But yeah, I imagine that is the big thing. You know, Shadow Complex 2 also, you would have had to have figure out what do you do there. Story Battle Breakers, that was the phone game. Yes, Battle Breakers. I saw Battle Breakers running. I swear, I saw someone play Battle Breakers, and I went, "Huh, that looks all right." But Fortnite. Shadow Complex is still a pretty good game. I think if you did another one, you would end up having to get back together with Orson Scott Card, which is, not, I don't think the particular people involved in the making of Shadow Complex at a high level would have had trouble with that. In terms of ideological alignment or what have you, but that would be something that would be a part of that as well, presumably. But yeah, I don't know. I loved Shadow Complex as a video game. I thought the story was fine for what it was. And they did that remaster, and you always thought like, oh, is this going to be them finding their way into making another one? And no. And now Donald Mustard is retired, and there's I don't know what's left of the chair team or what I assume they all moved on to Fortnite. I don't really know. But yeah, Shadow Complex, for what it's worth, I think Shadow Complex and its success helped usher in more of those types of games, so yeah, you could make another Shadow Complex, but in a lot of ways, so many of those types of games got made in the years following. We got Axiom Verge, we got there's so many fantastic games. There are so many fantastic games of that genre now that there are officially too many. And that's kind of the problem with the Pitfall idea, is you're like, yeah, that would be cool, but there's been a lot of those now. And so the stakes have been raised. And so now if you're going to make another one of those, what do you actually do? I think that's part of what really impressed me about Axiom Verge 2. And it's like a thing you look at and go, oh, right. Yeah. Okay. That's what you would do. Axiom Verge 1 kind of had the Metroid style to it to a degree. And Axiom Verge 2, they were like, oh, this one's going to be the Castlevania style one. It's melee, it's this, it's that. It's, Axiom Verge 2 is a cool fucking game. It didn't hit as hard as the first game, because I think that first game came out at a certain time. And I love Axiom Verge 1. I really enjoyed Axiom Verge 2 and found it very surprising as I played it. But it did not inspire me to go and play it again the way Axiom Verge 1 did. But I if you haven't played either of those games, I bet they both still hold up super fucking well. Like Axiom Verge 1 and 2, you can play them in either order. They're not, as much as they are connected, they are not necessarily like direct sequels. So you should go play the Axiom Verge games. If you like that style of game and haven't, you should check it out. And that's going to do it for us here. Thanks everyone for listening or watching. Most of you are listening. I can't blame you. And yeah, there'll be some more videos throughout the week. Planning on hoping, it's the schedule is still kind of in flux, so we'll not be streaming Wednesday and what was the normal time, but I'll probably come to you with a night stream or another video that was recorded at night, or something to that effect. But yeah, and then at some point we will rank some more Nintendo games. Last week I ended up doing that Thursday night instead of Friday during the day. We'll see how this week goes scheduling wise. there's still a lot to figure out with the new baby back in the house and how the schedule is going to go. So I apologize that things are still sort of in flux, but hey, if I was a sane person, I would still be on like an actual paternity leave and not be here at all. But here we are. So hey, have yourself a good week. We'll get some Nintendo games ranked. Head over to patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann for more details on how you can bless this mess and keep the train rolling and get on the Discord and get access to some more shows and all of that good shit. Be back at you soon. Take care.